That's it. That's my name. Yeah, no, we've got 22 people in. Eager beavers. I want your password. Don't worry. Just now. Oh, you can. Quiet before the storm.
Yeah, the calm before the storm.
We've got 2 minutes. We're just waiting for everybody to join in. But if any of you want to say hi to Juliet in the meantime or chat to us, please unmute yourself.
Juliet?
Yeah.
How did you get into designing layouts?
That's a very good question. I don't know.
When was your first one?
So I've been scrapbooking now for almost 22 years. I was pregnant with my first child, who's now 21. And I don't know, I just loved it. I've always loved paper. I used to decorate all my projects at school. I don't know how I started designing layouts. I guess you just like all scrapbookers, we just get paper and we make stuff. And then people started liking what I did, I guess. So yeah.
Natural growth.
Who introduced you to scrapbooking?
So I had a neighbor that lived behind me. Her name was Irene. And she had, I think some people might know Irene Dutoy from many years ago. She had been to a Hobby X show in Natal. And she came back and she's like, I have to show you this amazing stuff. And she had some papers and stickers and very simple things. And I was hooked. I mean, any pretty paper, stickers. And in those days, we used to just do a page with a triangle of paper. You know, the old, I don't even know what we call it. It wasn't even creative memories. It was something
Magic memories.
Magic memories, that's it. And it was like you cut a triangle and you cut all your photos out in funny little stencil borders. They were hideous. So I don't show anyone. I think I've thrown them. I ripped the photos off and redid them all. But with just some papers and stickers. And look how we've progressed from there.
True.
So yeah, it was my neighbor that showed me this pretty stationery she bought at a hobby show. And I was hooked.
And how long have you had Scrapfinity for?
16 years now.
Wow.
In my store for 16 years. Yeah.
It's an awesome story. We haven't been girls.
I won't say it's been easy, but it's been good. Yeah. So we're all ready to work. Have we got a few minutes still?
We've got 41 participants in, so let's just give it
Hang on a few
1
minutes.
minute. Yeah, it's only 1 now, so let's give it some minutes.
Okay.
Up to you.
I hope you're all not too full from lunch. No afternoon nap. We can work now.
Sweet man, Jordan.
Mine, but I'm gonna demo them again.
Come on. Right away.
Right now.
See.
Those lights off and see if it's better because it's been washed out. That's better.
Much better.
I can get a little damage on this. This one.
No, you can put that on actually.
Yeah, it's
So just a little.
There it goes. Yeah. The light is
When I look at your Steve, got more paper where this came from. I haven't watched it yet. So, yeah, at this stage. Oh, Wendy's on. Seriously, yeah.
How do you start this on dish?
Did scrapbooking start in Cape Town the same time as Joburg, or was it something that first went to Joburg and then moved down?
I'm actually not sure. I think it had been around in Joburg a little bit, because we had nothing in Cape Town. I used to fly to Joburg to go to some of the stores, the first stores, in the first few years that I was scrapbooking. But I think it cottoned on quite quickly in Cape Town.
Okay. Who was the first store in South Africa? Physical.
I think it was like a Magic Memories consultant.
No,
I don't, or
no, it
actual
was,
store.
Maureen Sundale, but I think
Yes.
the first actual store was the wholesaler, was the scrapbook, was Liz.
Okay.
Liz and Joan, Raffia and Ribbons, as I told you last night.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that the second store was Anshin, the
Okay.
real store.
Scrapping for
It was
Africa.
either Nikki Zip or Anshin, but Nikki Zip was never really a scrapbooker.
Okay.
Just crafts. She was just crafts, but I think it was Anshin was the second or the third, and then Jeanette McIntosh.
Yes.
Jeanette was
Scrapbook
a
10.
forerunner.
No, it was.
I think Jeanette was third.
In Durban, we had Sharon Sweet around that time. Sharon Sweet and what was the other lady's name? We had Scrapping for Africa.
For that Anshin.
Yeah.
Anshin was before me.
And we had
Diane, Sandy,
which Diane? One.
Swan.
Yeah, she worked for Anshin. It was never Anshin, I don't think. She worked for Anshin at Scrapping for Africa.
But she was
No,
in Joe.
Before that, she had her own, she ran from home.
Oh, okay.
Before Anshin was in Durban, in actual fact, what was it? Prince Charming was
Prince
the
Charming,
first.
that's right.
That was the
Peter
first
Maritzburg.
scrapbooking in
She was in
Maritzburg.
Kloof. They had Kloof and they had Maritzburg.
Maritzburg. She was
And
the first
Cascade,
person in
yeah.
Durban.
Isn't it
Avril.
Debbie?
Avril,
Avril?
and I think Debbie took it
Debbie,
after. I've been around, eh?
yeah. And there was another lady also had a home store.
Yeah, we'd be talking like brick and
Yes,
you're like a shop.
No, yeah.
But I have to tell you,
And
Jeanette was
Talking
the front
20,
runner.
you know, it feels like 100 years ago. I can't quite do the timelines. I don't know, but it started with the scrapbook. Liz opened a store.
Liz
think
was
she
really,
had a- yeah.
really- she had a scrapbook, the scrapbook. thing.
Yes, the
But
scrapbook.
that
Yeah,
was long time later.
long time. Yeah,
I'd
but I
say
don't know
like
how many years. It was probably a couple of years later. We started out with Magic Memories consultants.
all of us.
People
And
that had-
Adrian Lubber
like a Tupperware
the-
consultant, but with papers and
Yeah.
stickers
or templates.
and templates.
So embarrassing.
We cut every single one of our photos
Into stars
in a
and
star or a
circles,
bubble, or it was
and ovals,
absolutely awful.
had
But at the
oval
time,
and
we
the
loved it.
Oval ovation. Remember?
Yes.
Oh,
That was about 2000 because that's when I started.
It was
scrapping.
2000, that's
Oval
right.
Ovations was like,
1990, 2000.
It was exactly
and
2000.
I think I've got about
21
pages
years
with
ago.
those on our fort.
And we thought we were brilliant.
I still got that page.
I have got my page.
But I've locked it away.
Never
I've got some of
repeated
those
page.
first albums, but I don't show anybody.
Yeah.
Them on the
That shows how
hardware.
much you've grown.
I still have my stencils.
You still got your?
Stencils from that time.
I mean, too.
I
don't
think I do
worry.
too.
You use that, Mags. You use them.
I used to cut your photos in different shapes. I still have
Yes.
those stencils.
Oh,
No, you're showing your age.
Isn't it awful?
Okay, guys.
You ready?
Shirley Hodgson has said we need to press on here. The
You
sun
want to
sets early in
start? Eager
Joburg.
Beavers. Shelley's in Cape Town.
And the sun
She said it
sets
says
like
early in Joburg, so I don't know.
Maybe
Yeah.
Maybe she thinks we're in Joburg.
Oh, she- oh.
She's in Cape Town.
Is she Cape Town?
Which
Okay.
Shirley White.
Michelle
No, Shirley.
Hodgson.
Oh,
Yeah.
Michelle.
Yeah. Okay, Michelle, we'll keep you happy. Shirley, we will start your class.
Okay, are we ready to go, ladies? So this is just a little show and tell of the items that are included in the amazing bulk pack. You've got your full paper pack, and I'm sure some of you have noticed, well, you won't have noticed with the full bloom, but with the following, the previous, well, the latest collection, which is Sunkissed, and the Christmas collection, which just came out recently, Merry and Bright. The paper pack now has 18 sheets of paper in it. So there are an extra 6 sheets of paper. It's a lovely thick pack. You're going to be able to do tons of projects with the extra bits that are in the pack. Okay. And then we've got our beautiful bubble stencil, the acetate sheet. We've got 2 chippies, one with words, one with this lovely fishnet. And we've got our gorgeous embellishment pack with sparkly glitter, which I always love. Okay, and we're going to be using that glitter shortly. So we're going to start actually with our chipboards.
Can we also just announce or just say that this collection hasn't even launched yet? You're using it before it's even reached any stores. So thank you for booking into the event. Even though people are watching this on Facebook Live, they don't have their hands on this collection. It's reserved specifically for you.
Yeah, you're all the first to have it. In fact, I think I saw it before Dennis even saw it.
You did.
It went straight from the printer to me because, yeah, there were a few delays along the line. Okay, so we're going to start. I'm going to show you exactly what we need. Before, you can put your paperbacks aside for now. I want us to prepare the chipboards so that they can dry and be ready for when we want to put them on the layout. So we're going to be using these inks. I'm going to show you now. You're going to need these 2 packs of chipboard. Put your stencil and acetate aside for now. These 2, and from your embellishment pack, you're going to need this little sachet of glitter. Yes, girls, we're going to get glittered. And this powder glitter probably will, the powder glitter probably will sprinkle a little everywhere, but what is a page without a little bit of sparkle? And you're going to need your glossy accents or your Anita's 3D gloss or your dimensional glaze, whichever product you use. I like to do my chipboards. I do a lot of the blending with my fingers, but if you don't want to, sorry, Laura, I don't get my hands dirty either, except for talks. If you don't want to use your fingers, then you need to get out either a finger dauber, little one like that, or one of your blending tools. Okay. And your wet wipes.
Are they wet?
They're wet. Okay, now glitter has a way of sort of getting everywhere. If you have a little glitter tray, you can use that. Otherwise, maybe just a plate. We're just actually going to do it on the chipboard and on the plastic. Like I love inking on the plastic as well, because you can pick up some of the ink that you've used and you can reuse it. Okay, so what we're going to need from these 2 packs. Right, so we're going to do a couple of these shells. I think I've used about 5 of them. So you can just snip out some of the pansy shells. One of the little tiny ones too.
Are there any that one?
You can actually use any ones that you like. I think I've used 2 of the larger ones, a medium and another semi-medium.
We need to keep some tiny ones.
We're only using just 2 of them you can leave behind because we're going to use that on the second layout. We are going to use this mesh as well. So while we're busy snipping this, you can just snip these out. It really doesn't matter if they're not exactly the pieces that I've used. You can just cut them off this frame and then we can decide later how much of it you want to snip off, how much you want to use. Those away.
If people are just trying to get the inks out, can you just
Okay.
read those colors? Yeah.
I'll take a picture as well.
Thanks.
Right, so the colors of the inks that we're using is pink grapefruit, oasis green, cloud white. The aloe vera is an option. You don't have to use it. It's just if you want a little bit more green in. I don't think I use it for this. I use it on the second layout, but I'm putting it in there in case you want to use something a little different. I'm going to put this on the group. Then you can see the inks that we're going to use. Okay, the layout that we're doing, I see there's a question. the layout that we're doing is the first one that was uploaded. I think Dennis is busy uploading the images of the second one, or they are up now, so you'll be able to access them later, but it's the first one that's been uploaded, just to answer that question. Okay. So I'm just going to cut a
Don't use
few.
the frame. Okay.
We're not using the frame. However, this particular chipboard, I want you to cut very carefully, because on the second layout, we are going to use the whole frame with that set of text attached to it. Okay, so the words that we're going to cut out of this one now is walking on sunshine. Do not cut it through the frame. Okay, you need to just, if you watch what I'm doing, you need to just cut it off the frame. You can always add, you can always take the little joining pieces off at a later stage, but keep your whole frame intact. Yes, the layout, sorry, that's this one. Oh, so if I can just show you over here, I don't know if you'll be able to see, maybe I must just bring it closer. Okay, I can, oh, now you can switch cameras again, sorry. Okay, if you have a look here, we're using that, we're actually using the chipboard frame with the words attached. Okay, so you can cut everything else out of the middle. Even though we're using for the second class, we're going to use some of the middle bits for this class we're doing now.
Thank you.
Okay. Stable. All right, so we're using walking on sunshine. And we are using this one at the bottom called summertime. And the last one that we're using on here is this little one that says beach vibes on the right-hand side. The rest you can leave as is, or you can cut them out and set them aside for the second layout. Okay, so that's what we've left behind, and this is what we're using. This is what you need to have in front of you now. Can you all see?
Are we using that whole mesh thing? Both pieces?
We're going to use most of it. There's probably one little piece we'll cut off, but we're going to use most of it, of the mesh.
Using beach vibes, eh?
Yeah. A little close up. Those are the three words. Okay, is everybody there? Shall we start inking? Okay, so before we get to the glitter, that makes a bit of a mess, so we're going to do that last. We're going to do these three words. Now, we all have different ways of applying ink, so I'm just going to show you my method. Just want to cut these little joints off. Okay, so I like to ink all my chipboards in white right in the beginning. The reason why I do that is because I like to blend my colors. And the chipboard is a little bit porous, and some of the inks, depending on what inks you use, the Versa chalks are wonderful because they don't dry immediately. So you've got a bit of a blending surface. However, when they apply directly on the chipboard, the color is quite specific. If you put them over white, you're able to blend and shade a little bit and create this ombre look that we're going to do. If you have a look there, you can see it's shaded. Okay, so that's because I put white on it first. So you can take your white chalk, mine is very well used, and just ink all of it. Ideally, your chalk needs to be nice and wet for this. Mine is a little bit dry, so I'm going to give it a bit, thanks, I'm going to use Michelle's because it's a new one. You want it, oh, that's very wet, but it's fine. No, it's good. It's not a problem. Okay.
Not suitable for Laura's technique.
Not suitable for Laura's. She likes the dry one. Okay. Okay, so we want to make it all nice and wet, or just basically inked with the white. Okay, then we're going to take our colors. Like I said, I've used those two colors. You don't need to use the green unless you want to add a little bit of an extra vibe.
Green?
This is aloe vera.
No, which one are you?
Oasis green. Oasis Green and Pink Grapefruit. Those are the two colors I've used. Okay, and I'm going to show you my process. Like I say, I work with my fingers. If you don't want to, please use your dauber or your, but you'll see how I just do this. And then I take my finger and just shade it a little bit out, and you'll see how it doesn't just sit. When you put it on, you can actually blend it away from the white. And I want the top a little bit darker, so I'm going to go back and do a little bit more. You can go as low as you like. I like to leave a little bit of the middle showing some of the white. You can do this on your plastic if you prefer, because if you're using a dauber, you can actually pick up some of the chalk that you've left on the plastic and reuse it. But I think I can see it better on the. Okay, if you don't want to mess your ink like I do, then I just buy a new one. Then do it on your sheet of plastic. Okay, I work from the right, so I've turned it around, and now I'm going to take the other color and I'm going to do exactly the same from the bottom. If your fingers have some ink on them, some color ink, then just take a little paper towel or a wet wipe, and that comes off super easy. It's not like paint, it's not like distress ink. They come off really easy. You can do exactly the same from the bottom here. And then just soften it a little bit like that. Add some more to get your ends nice and bright. And I'm going to put it on a clean sheet so I can show you. If you have a look there. Oops. Okay, so that's the effect we're going for. It's a little bit sort of ombre, the colors blend into each other, and that is literally thanks to the white ink that's helped us blend the colors. Okay, so we're going to do that with all three of these words. This one I've done top to bottom. If you have a look on the layout, you'll see the summertime. I've actually blended from right or left to right. So you can vary. You don't always have to do it, you know, following the words. You can actually do them to the sides as well. And then this is the third one for beach vibes I've done over there, again from top to bottom. Okay, so you can go ahead and ink those. And as I think it was Sandy mentioned, this Oasis Green is probably my favorite color in the entire Versamark collection. It literally works with almost everything. And it works with every single one of the projects that we're doing over this weekend. Okay, so I've got a little bit too much white here, so I'm just blotting it. You do have to work quite gently on these fine chipboards. If they come apart, it's not a problem because you can just glue them together on your layout. That one.
Yeah.
Okay. This one's very finicky. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to give you a minute or two just to do that. In the meantime, I'm going to show you. I always like to add, you don't need to let them dry 100% before we add stickles, but I love to use stickles. Or one I've got here is the Glitzing Glamour, it's just a different brand, but it's the same thing. It's, for those who don't know, it's a liquid glitter glue, and it's got a fine little tip, and it's just awesome. It dries completely flat and just adds that little bit of sparkle, and none of the glitter comes off. So what I've done here is just, let me push those off for a sec. Just dot it on like that. I don't always coat the whole word in it. Sometimes I like to just do the top or a little piece in the middle. So even the glitter is sort of ombre, if we can call it that. And sometimes also just dot with my finger if there's too much. Yeah. Even though this is a summertime layout, a nice tip if you're ever doing a winter layout is to do this running off the tops of your titles, and it looks like snow or frosting. So, but we can do it for summer as well. We can always use a bit of glitter. Okay, and even though it's applied quite roughly, you'll see when it dries. I'm not sure I'll take a photo. You will see when it dries, it actually dries quite flat and clear. So you don't get all the bubbles and It's amazing stuff. And who of us don't need a bit of sparkle in our lives? Eh? So let me take a picture and just show you. Oh, sorry, somebody asked, must I cut the flip-flops off? No, leave the, did you answer? Okay, thanks. Okay. Right, so I'm going to put that one aside and I'm going to do the same. And this particular one, I've done most of the glitter in the middle on the white part, but you can put it wherever you like. So stickles does take quite a while to dry, which is why we're doing this first. Ideally, you need to leave it, depending on how thick you apply it, you need to leave it for at least 20 minutes. It's not a 5-minute thing. It's something that needs patience. And just put it out of the way. I can't tell you how many times I've put a piece of paper on top of it and then you've got wet stickles everywhere. So just find a little gap on your desk and shove it out the way, and we will use it right at the end. If you don't have stickles, I'm going to show you what you can do with powder glitter. We're going to do that on these. You can actually do the same concept. So this is just a quick fix.
Juliet, we had a retailers day once and they were using, similar to what you're doing now, they were using the Anita's gloss.
Yes.
And they put it on the floor to dry.
Oh,
And then they
dear.
walked up to the station to have a look at what the teacher was doing, and it got stuck to somebody's foot.
No.
Their shoe. So,
And to be honest, there's very little you can do to
oh,
rescue
no,
that.
it was gone.
Once it started drying, it's tickets. So then you just buy another pack of chipboard
Yeah.
and start again. Oh dear. Whoopsie. Don't flip it like that either. Okay, you can use a little tweezer sometimes to pick it up if things are getting a bit stuck. So what I do is I take this, it's all glittered, and just put it aside to dry. Okay. Should I give you a few minutes to finish that? Or should I demo the shell so long and then get everybody to just finish all their chipboards? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to put that like far out of the way. Okay. Oh, the other thing I wanted to tell you is I don't know if I'm sure many of you buy the bulk pack regularly and have done some of my layouts. You'll see quite a few times I use this craft sheet, this craft paper that's the backing sheet in the embellishment packs and the stencil and the acetate sheet. I use it as photo mattings. So don't throw this away. Even if you've inked this side, you can still cut that and use it as a photo matting. And sometimes this craft is just that little bit of color you need to add to give some extra dimension on your page. So these are, you don't even have to buy big sheets. You can use the backing sheets. These are amazing. This one I'm literally just going to flip over now. You can do it on the plastic if you like. We're actually going to use both because glitter, you need 2 little bits to work on. Okay, so for these, we're going to apply dimensional glaze, glossy accents. I actually prefer the Anita's. This just happens to be the one that I have with me. The Anita's is a little bit thinner. And it's fine, I can demo with this. It's a little bit thinner and it goes on a little bit. Yeah, I'll show you. This is the other one. This is my preference, I won't lie, because it just applies a little bit smoother. The glossy accents I find is a little bit thicker, a little bit chunkier, but it works just as well. So you can use either. I'm going to demo with a glossy accents just to show that you can use it. Okay, now this is quite tricky. I don't want you to squeeze your bottles too hard because if this stuff comes out too much, there is a way of dispersing it. But what we want to do is try not to get it clogged in all these little holes of the pansy shells. The designs are quite detailed and they're quite small. I always have a paper piercer handy or a needle or something with a sharp point, toothpick, because you can literally just get rid of some of the gloss and wipe it off on a paper towel or a wet wipe afterwards. Okay.
And another thing, don't shake the bottle.
Yeah, don't shake it.
Ever.
You want to always keep a pin or something handy because these little
Stainless
bottles,
steel pin if you can.
yes, a stainless steel pin, they do get clogged. So what I do is I just shove my piercer into it. Most times before I use it, I have to do this. It's the same with the Stickles bottles. They also get clogged. Just a pin or a very thin piercer through it normally clears it. Shake it a little bit. But you want to store it like this, not upside down, because if the glue gets in the tip, sorry, I'm out of the shot. If the glue gets in the tip, it does get stuck, and then yeah. But you don't want to cut this tip off because then the glue comes out too fast.
We learned last night that Laura stores her piercer in her thigh.
Wow.
Handy tip.
Well, or not so handy. Okay, so I'm going to do this holding it. I prefer it because I feel like I've got more control. So see if I can come quite high up. And it's literally like coloring in
The whole piece,
the whole thing. Try and avoid all the open areas. I'm not sure. I will take a photo once it's glazed so that I can show you how my glaze is applied. This is a bit of peaty, but it gives an amazing result. And it's the best way to keep powdered glitter as much in place as possible. If you use any other glue, the glitter literally just runs off. The glitter will set in this dimensional glaze and keep most of it from dispersing across your page, especially if you're a person who doesn't like your glitter to run everywhere. Okay, you don't want to squeeze the bottle too hard because then it comes out a lot, just light pressure. I'm going to try and take a close up here so that you can see the glaze. That should work. And now if you see little bits on the ends that don't have glitter on, once it's dried, you can go back and you can reapply. So it's not a train smash if your glitter hasn't dispersed nicely, but you can really touch it up. I'm going to do one at a time. I'm going to do one first, and then we're going to go ahead and just do all of them. Okay. Okay, now you can throw a whole bunch of glitter over it. Don't be shy. Rather cover it lots. And then I just use a tweezer or my piercer to lift it up. Shake it off. Okay, and you can see your shell is beautifully glittered. Okay, now that you're going to need to leave to dry. Like I say, it's almost the same as the stickles. You're going to need to let it dry for at least 20 minutes. I'll take a picture like that as well.
Gorgeous.
You might see there's a few little spots there. Once it's dry, you can go back, you can touch up. Don't do it while it's wet because your glaze will get, your nozzle will get filled with the dry glitter. But once it's dry, you can shake off any extra glitter and you can touch up any of the spots that you're not happy with, where there's no coverage. Another tip is the color of your glitter. You can always ink your chippy first. So if you had sort of a rose gold or a copper ink, you can ink your chippy first, then put the glaze and the glitter on, and it helps hide any of those little bits and pieces. But these are shells and they're imperfect, so they're good like this. Okay, then what we do, I'm only doing one now to show you, but we are going to do them all. Just make a little fold. It's always best to do this on a piece of paper over something else. This is if you don't have a fancy glitter tray, and you just pop all that glitter back inside the packet. You'll be surprised how little glitter you actually use, and that a small packet like this, you'll be amazed how many words, how many items you can glitter. Okay, so that's how we're doing it. And I'm going to give you some time. We're going to go ahead and we're going to do all of these. Okay, let's go. Shall we give them a time limit?
Pressure.
No. Are there any questions? Is everybody okay with the inking and the glittering?
No questions on the WhatsApp group.
Okay,
Everybody's
that's a
keeping
good sign. They're all concentrating. So I'm a detail person. I love little details on my layouts, and things like this, just adding touches of sparkle and glitter, even though you don't always see it in the photographs. It makes all the difference to finishing your layouts.
That's why when we launch collections, we generally video your layout, because you just don't pick it up on photos, but on the video you can see all the detail. And
yes, and for those who don't know, the layouts that I do for Dennis and Erin, I courier to them, and every month Dennis always says to me, wow, I can't believe the detail. I didn't see it on the photo. So you do have to do them and do the little things to see them up front. The cameras, the photos never do it justice.
No.
Okay, for those who have a rose gold or this sort of color stickles, you can do exactly the same and just color your, the stickles come in amazing colors. You could do these pansy shells. They are pansies, right? Yes.
$10.
$10.
It's the same thing.
Oh, is it?
I think so.
Okay, I've learned something new. You can do them in stickles as well, and then you don't have to do this process. But when you get this little amazing pack in your kit,
You want to use
you
it.
want to use it. And the little ones are quite tricky. Don't be shy with the glitter. Rather pour the whole packet over it and put it all back in than do too little and then you don't have enough coverage.
Your shop shining from one end to
My
the
shop
other.
has permanently got glitter and bling and sparkle everywhere. If it's pink or shiny or glittery, I need it.
Our friends at Google say the pansy and the sand dollar is the same thing.
There we
Perfect.
go.
So it's a pansy shell. That's the easiest way to remember it.
Little ones are a bit tricky.
Yeah, the little ones are a little tricky, but as I say, if you have little spots, you just go back afterwards and you touch them up. Even once it's stuck down on your layout, you can touch it up and well, you will get glitter everywhere, but if you're using stickles,
More the
it
merrier.
will be fine, yeah. Okay, this back in the packet. So I always like to do my chipboards first, not when I'm designing because I never know what I'm doing, but when doing a class or teaching, you know, a kitted class, I like to prep the chipboards beforehand so that they've got time to dry because there's nothing worse than if it takes an hour or two to dry and you've got to go home and you're balancing it to try and get in your car and the wind blows. So we do this right in the beginning so it's got plenty of time to be set.
Might need to explain to the Joburg ladies what wind is.
Do the Joburg ladies not know what wind is?
No.
Come to Cape Town, you'll find out very fast. And I have one of those wet wipes here. Yeah, Cape Town and the Eastern Cape, we know wind. We know all about wind.
And Durban.
And Durban, not that much though.
Trust me.
Really? Sandy says there's wind in Durban too, but I don't think
But
it's.
they have 5 hectic windy days a year.
I was just going to say, we have 5 months of wind. You have 5 days. So I think
No, I think it's moving up. the
winner,
coast, to
winner.
be honest.
Mhm.
All right, so all my little bits are done. I'm going to give you all a few minutes. That's the prep that we've done. We've got glitter on, we've got color and stickles, and we're going to put it aside to dry. Okay, wet wipe also works amazing for just picking up the excess glitter on your mat. You see it picks up all the little last bits.
Laura was boasting about how clean she was in her class, but
Look at her now, she's got glitter on her fingers.
But
But I reckon Juliet's work surface is pretty amazing.
Yeah, so, wow.
Very organized and clean.
Okay, make sure your little glitter sachet, you see how much is left. The bag looks basically the same as when we opened it. So there's still lots here that you can use. We do need to still do these fishnet chippies. They actually don't need color. You can use them as is, but I have just done a little bit of white on them. I always like to just white out. What the white also does, if you just like to keep your chipboards plain, which I must be honest, I love doing. Sometimes I don't feel like I have to color the chipboards. They work so nicely as they are, especially with photos, because we've all got these natural skin tones and it just gives a little bit of dimension against dark pages. So you don't always have to color every single chippy that you have. Sometimes you can just keep them completely plain. But I always like to put a bit of white on It's a very subtle white because it blocks out if there's any of little bit of laser burn and some of the edges have browned a little bit, then that will take that away. But if you like the brown edge, you can also leave that. You can really do these chippies in any colors that you like. If you want to do them in a blue, if you want to ink your nets, you are, yeah, it is a net. You can do that as you like. Okay. So I'm not even going to cut, I can actually cut them out. Just cut these little pieces loose. Doesn't really matter if you're cutting not on the exact joins. The neck looks mixed up anyway, so just want to cut the straight pieces off if they don't look out of place. Okay, and that's it. Our chippies are all prepped. Do you ladies want to give a little bit of a thumbs up or thumbs down on the WhatsApp group to see how far you are if you need more time?
Is the flip-flop one not done?
No, the flip-flop one we're not using in this class. I mean, I can ink if you'd like me to show you. It's the same concept, but in fact, I've used this aloe vera on that layout, on the flip-flop one.
Why don't you do it quickly?
Do you want me
while
to
the
show you?
others-
And then if you want to do it now, then you can do that. Then the inking for the second page is also done. Those that want to just look and carry on with their current ones can do this later. There's another color of Versa that is called wheat.
Oh, I love it.
I think I have one here I can show you.
I've got one at the end there.
This color is also amazing. It's pretty much the same color as this. So if you've got any of these little bits that you don't want seen from where we've snipped them off, then I often just take some wheat and just do that. You can use one of your distress inks as well, but it just hides the difference between where you've cut the little nodules off and the straight pieces. So I didn't specify to bring it, but I thought I would show you that anyway.
It was on the list.
I think it's in one of the other classes, in Sandy's class. So this is a great color to use for that. So this also just shows you the versatility of these frames. Often we just cut them off and chuck them away, but you can use them as a photo frame. Not all of them need to have titles attached. I often just use the frame as a border on my photo mats. So we use all the packaging. Okay, so this one I've done.
You've used the packet even, haven't you? For
I've used the
box?
packet. We did, I think it was your last beach collection
Yes.
last year. I made a shaker box and I used the plastic for the shaker box, so without even needing anything else. So yeah, I use it all. Don't throw anything away. I think you even said that. The border strips and
Border strips in the Pringle.
in the
container.
Pringle container or the Woolworths tin. Okay, so for this one, because I've done the frame in green, I often just use a
Green.
piece of, yeah, I've used aloe vera and pink grapefruit
Okay.
for this one. So again, we're going to do the white. You don't need to do the white on the frame because we're going to keep the frame plain colored. I think Dennis is just posting a picture, but you need to just wipe this out a little bit,
Just the words.
just the words. So this one's a little bit more tricky because if you see here, the frame is in green and I don't want my grapefruit ink to go over the frame. So we're going to block it out with a piece of the packaging. Again, we use the packaging. Luckily, there are lots in the set. You can either use another piece of this, you can use a piece of A4 paper, you can use your packaging. And the first thing I'm going to do, let's do it that way.
And I thought you took a photo of the Life is Better.
In flip-flops.
Oh, is it? Okay, so I'm just going to look for it.
No, the late. Yes.
Oh,
Just want to turn this one around.
You
Do it
clear
from the
that,
other
eh?
side. Right, so we're going to close it off like that. It is better with a piece of paper, so I'm going to use that. Okay. And then this one, remember how I did it. You're just going to do this with your ink. Okay, so we've only inked that, just using a piece of paper to block off the other parts of the chipboard so that you don't get the color over it. I'm not worried about that, it all blends in. And then you're going to take your green and you can do the same. You can also block it off and you do the frame at the top. I haven't made this green very dark. I just blend it in a little bit straight onto the chipboard. Both sides. Okay, we're going to do the same for the rest of the frame.
I'll see you dab and then smear.
I dab and smear. So because it stays wet for a while, not for long, because it's a chalk ink, it's not a pigment ink, but you are able to blend it a little bit. So you can get the color on and then you can smooth it out. You don't have to be too gentle. And because these colors come out quite light, you can't mess it up. Okay, and then we're going to do the same on the flip-flops, blending from the bottom. You have a bit of white underneath, so you can go as light or as dark as you like. If you wanted a solid color, you could just block that off and just go the whole way.
Oh, I think I'm in love, even dirtying my finger.
And then we've got our inked chippy. This is again for the second layer, but you can see, I think I did add glitter to it as well, but you can do that at the later stage. We don't need this now. I just wanted to show you how to keep it all on the frame. Okay. So how are we doing with our other inking and our glittering and shells? Thumbs up if we can move on.
Lots of thumbs up.
Lots of thumbs up. Right, I'm going to clean my hands because I now have chalk everywhere. I love the Versa chalks. They blend beautifully, they clean easily, and they're super inexpensive. And they last long. And like Laura said, those who maybe weren't in the class this morning or didn't hear, if you don't know, they have, in fact, I'm going to do it with one of these, with one of my older ones that I can show you. Yeah, I'm going to do it with this green because my green, you can see now has, like I like to just shove it on top. So get a bit of brown, a bit of things on. It has a second layer. So if you're very careful, you look at the tip, you can actually just peel. You see that? You can peel the top layer right off and your ink is almost brand new and refreshed, and you can throw this piece away. So once it starts getting here, a lot of people don't know that. Once it starts getting a little bit dry, you've got a little bit of other colors mixed on it. It looks like it's breaking. It does. It looks like it's breaking, but it's actually not. So it's only got one layer though. You can't keep peeling. So that's the beauty of these. They really do. And look there, it looks practically brand new. And if I use it now, it will come out nice and dark.
It's actually perfect.
So these inks are fabulous. You've got to have all, however many colors there are in the collection. There's not one bad color. The only color they're missing is a gray.
I use Niagara Mist.
Yes, Niagara Mist is like a bit of a greeny gray, but that's the closest.
That London fog.
Yes. Otherwise, I use the little Brilliance. You know, the little Brilliance ink pad.
Yes.
This color, just want to show you, it's not for this class, but this color is called Starlight Black, and it's a gorgeous charcoal. So if you're needing a gray ink, this is your go-to. And also,
what is the difference between the Brilliance?
So the Brilliance is a pigment ink, and the Versa are chalk inks. So with a pigment ink, you can even emboss with it. You can stamp.
They stay
You
wet
can't
longer.
stamp with a chalk ink because it dries too quickly, unless they're brand new. When they're brand new, you actually can. And it stays, it can smudge off if you don't leave it to dry, whereas a pigment ink will dry nice and hard and solid. They also take a little bit of time to dry, but you can also emboss with them. So you can do heat embossing powder, whatever, with pigment inks, and even
And do
with the
they
small ones.
peel as well, like a new layer?
It
Yeah,
looks
we've
like it.
got
I don't think I've
that
ever
far.
tried, but it looks like it does. Yes, it's also got that little layer made by the same company. So yeah, and mine get like this, but you can take a wet wipe and you can literally just clean them on the side. They come off really easily. So these are great. These little teardrops are great inks. So the Brilliance is my next go-to if there isn't a color in the Versa. You can also blend with them. The ink comes out a little bit darker, but again, if you have a white background, it's so much easier. You can do the same thing. Okay, so all of that, I didn't even dirty any of my daubers, and my fingers are mostly clean.
It's made for Laura.
Made for Laura. And people like me, I also don't like getting my hands dirty. I like clean and neat and easy. Okay. We need to move on. We're going to start cutting. Put all your chipboards aside. It's away, just clear my web surface a little bit. Okay, so I want you to open up your paper packs and we're going to start with a cutting. Now, there isn't actually a ton of cutting on this particular layout, thank goodness, but we'll go nice and slowly and we're going to be fine. Okay, so this particular sheet, this cover sheet, if you have not yet fussy cut, we're not going to use this on this layout. We are using some of the elements in the middle. These two borders are only going to be used on the second layout. So if you haven't done your fussy cutting, don't stress about getting it fitted in now, because you can do that later. But we are going to use a couple of these, one or two of the shells, one or two of the seahorses, and these items here. But if you haven't cut them, it can also be added later. So you can just put this one aside for now. And then I'm going to show you which ones we are going to use for this. Okay, so the first sheet we're going to use is this one, PP7001. It's called Boardwalk. And we're going to create, let me just bring the layout into view again. We're going to create our background. Now, I have joined pieces on the background because I like to save my paper for other projects. So I don't always like to use like here, I've just used a little bit of the pebbles on the side. I want to be able to use the rest of that pebbles paper and the second sheet later on. So we're going to join the pages at the back. In fact, the one pebble sheet is got the fussy cut bits. So this sheet you hopefully would have cut out. So we're going to use the second sheet, the one that second sheet you can take out. That is called 7005. It's called Waves. We're going to need that one. And we're going to need 7001 Boardwalk. And we're going to use 7002 Seashore. So those are the three pieces we're going to use now. Boardwalk, Seashore, and Waves. So you can just see the names and the codes. I've put them on the group if you want to have a look. Okay, now for this, our background is quite easy. You only need to cut the width. We are leaving the length exactly the same. So 30.5 or 30.4. We want to get specific. I call it 30.5. Laura calls it 30.4. So we're just going to cut. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. It's 12 inches. We're going to cut off our border strips and put them in the Pringle jar. However, this particular border strip we're going to use. So this one that we're cutting off number 1. No, sorry, this is number 2. We are using this dark blue border strip, so we need to keep that handy now because we are using it for this. We will be cutting that now. And then the second sheet also, cut off the border strip. We're not using that border strip now. So For now, I'm just cutting the border strips off.
Rachel has to leave and go to a wedding and her hands are full of glitter. She's worried she's going to outshine the bride.
Good for her. Enjoy the wedding, and there's nothing wrong with outshining anyone. You go shine, girl. Love it. Okay. All right. So this piece, this is the first one we've cut. It's got the little, what do you call that? Dennis, help me out. Jellyfish, sorry, jellyfish in the top left. This is the first piece we're going to cut. You're going to cut from the left-hand side. We are using the left piece. Okay, we're going to cut 24 centimeters. Right, so that's the piece that we're left with. 24, I actually do have the measurements here. I'm going to put them on like Laura did with her sticky notes. 24 by 30.5. Then the other sheet, this one we're going to cut from the right-hand side now. So we're keeping the borders on the outer sides of the paper. So I'm going to turn it around. I do cut from the top of the trimmer, not the bottom, in case it looks different. And this one we're going to cut 26 centimeters. Don't need the offcut strip, so you can put those away. That's our size for this one. 26 is your width, and it's the full length of the page, the full height.
So we won't use these offcuts.
Not going to use the offcuts. Well, not
now.
Not now. Okay. Next piece, is everyone fine with that? I think so. Yeah, don't put it on mine. I'm going to put those photos on the group of the sizes. Right, we're going to take our pebbles, sand, pebbles, a little bit of both. And we're going to cut 2 strips. It doesn't really matter which way you cut it now because the paper is, yeah. The pebbles, we're going to cut 2 pieces. The one is 7.5 centimeters. For those that work in inches, you can use a 3-inch piece. That we're going to put the photo on now. And the second piece is about 6 centimeters. These pieces don't need to be exact because we're going to be joining. So I'm actually cutting them bigger so that we've got a bit of an overlap at the back. Okay. Okay, so that's the last piece. Thanks, Michelle. Right, you can put this away. We're not going to use this again for this class.
Are you going to make me stand?
I'm coming to that.
Oh.
Okay, so if you put these two next to each other now, they are bigger than 12 inches. They are bigger than 30.5. And the reason why I've done that is because I want to tuck some little borders and things in. So I want you to use either your ruler or your cutting mat. This is quite simple. If you prefer to use your ruler, you just put your ruler underneath. What I like to do is, because I've cut these a little bit bigger, I'm going to put a thin piece of tape. I like to use tape, not glue. That's just me. You're welcome to use whatever works for you. But I prefer to use tape on paper because it doesn't ooze out. So I'm going to put a thin border of tape on here. And I'm going to do the same for this one. I'm just making sure my sizes are fine, which they are. Okay, so let's do the left page first. So if you're using a cutting mat, the left is the bigger piece and it's got the jellyfish in the left corner. So those are the 2 pieces we're using. You can use your cutting mats for this. All of you can see your cutting mats have got grids on and they've got all the measurements on here. So if you don't want to use a ruler, you can literally line it up with the measurements on your cutting mat.
So you're making your own 30.
I'm making my own
your
30 and a
12
half. But there's a reason why I'm leaving it a little bit bigger. It's because I want to tuck some little bits underneath here. Okay, now before we stick it down, I like to sand the edges of all my papers. It is a little bit messy, all of them. It is a little bit messy, but I like to do it with a lot of layouts because this beautiful white core gets exposed. And especially on a layout like this, it's all soft and light. I don't want hard ink. And sometimes it's difficult to find the right ink. So you're welcome to ink your pages if you prefer. If you prefer to sand it, I'm going to show you how I sand. I don't want to move the mat out of the frame, but I'm going to show you how I generally do it. I want us to just do this little edge first before we stick them down because it is going to show. Outside sanding we can do afterwards. So I normally put mine right on the edge of my cutting mat like this, and I shift my cutting mat right to the edge of my counter, and then use my sanding blocks are very well used, as you can see, but they work literally until they fall apart. You can also use an emery board. You can use a little bit of fine grit sandpaper, whatever works for you. So I like to put it on the end of my mat. I think we can just adjust the camera. There we go, perfect. So you can do it in the air like this, but often your paper gets bent and torn and it's quite awkward. So if you put it right on the end of your cutting mat, just do this. And that's it.
I had a client tell me the other day, she went and got a perspex block and she sands off there.
That's brilliant.
Because your mat starts to...
Your mat, the edge will start, but over a long time.
It
Will start wearing down.
The best thing. So
Perfect.
I quite like that idea.
Okay, so I haven't sanded in the middle. I'm just sanding all the way around. You can do it as much or as little as you like. It does help, like Laura said, to have a little, if you're sitting down, to have a little towel or something over your lap because you do get a bit of powder everywhere.
Dandruff.
But dandruff. But I think it's worth it because the sanding effect is really, really nice. And it's so easy on the side of your mat. You can go ahead and do that piece, and you can do the edges of that piece as well. If you prefer to ink, before you stick it down.
Oh, no,
if you prefer to ink it, then the reason why I've done it before I've stuck it down is because I want this side where I'm going to join to be sanded. And the same with this piece. If you prefer to ink, you can choose a light blue. You can choose one of the very soft browns, like a wheat or a creamy brown. One of my favorite colors is pumice stone from one of the distress inks. It's a beautiful, I don't know if it's a gray or a green, but it works with absolutely, it's a gray. Sometimes it's got a little bit of a green tinge, but it works beautifully with just about any color scheme that you're working with. So if you prefer to sand, that's always a good default. This one we're going to sand on the edge here too. When I first started sanding, the girls all cursed me. They still do, but they love the look. Yeah. Oh, that's worth it. Just can't do it late at night when your family's sleeping, because you just
Remember when we used to do eyelets?
Before we had crocodiles, we banged eyelets into the night. You won't see the sanding as much on some of the lighter papers, but you'll see when we work with some of the darker colors later how nice the effect is.
One of the girls who passed last week had a Dremel tool that she sanded the edges with. But it sounded like something else. It's quite
We were all laughing. An electric toothbrush. Okay, so I finished sanding. I'm going to give you all a minute to do that. Those that are done, you can cut this border so long. Yeah. It's lots more sanding, but they don't need to see it. Right, so I'm just going to cut this border while we're waiting.
No questions on the WhatsApp.
Loving it. Everyone's on it.
Yeah.
That would so much just walk.
That or
Yeah.
they
Yeah,
or they're completely stressed. Either way.
they just switch moves.
Or I'm explaining well and everyone knows what they're doing.
That's
Let's hope it's that.
That's it.
And so no one needs a repeat of the measurements. I'll keep them on just while we're sticking them down so you can see which piece goes where. One of my girls found a really cute little mini scoopy and brush, I think at Crazy Store. That works so well when you're sanding and you get this little bit of dust. And they come in pink and all different colors. So that's always a nice. I didn't bring it with, but that's a really nice thing to have. You just dust your sand off with this mini scoopy when you finished your sanding dust. Okay, let me show you how we're going to stick this down. So we're going to line it up on our ruler. We're obviously going to go to 30.5. If you have an inch ruler, you just turn it around and we want to go to 12 inches. It's much of a muchness. Okay, and you want to put your ruler straight. If you are worried that your ruler is going to move, it might seem like a bit of PT, but it's super easy. You can just do that. It comes off really easy off your cutting mat. You just keep your ruler in place or some masking tape or whatever it is you use. Line up your piece of paper there. I don't pull my whole piece of tape off. I just pull a little bit off. And I want to make sure that my page lines up 12 inches on that side against my ruler. Okay, and then I'll pull it off the rest. And I should be fine. Okay, so now the reason why I've done it like this, there's sometimes still a little bit of gap here, not much, but we are going to put a little border strip here. So even if you've stuck a screw, you can go right over it and you won't even see it. Okay, we're going to do the same with the other side. Line it up. So this is really to save paper, because what I could have done is, if I didn't need the classic cut sheet or whatever pattern you're using, you could use two. You can use two of the background sheets, but it is a waste. Then you can use that paper for something else. I'm doing this one from the other side. If you pull the tape the whole way and it gets stuck, then you've got a problem. But if you just pull it off a little bit in the beginning, you've got a bit of room to move before you pull the rest off. Okay. So that's our background's basically done. The pages should be stuck together. If you're not sure about the measurement, you can always put it in your trimmer. And if you've got it a little bit out, then you just trim a few millimeters off whichever side you prefer to get it back to 12 inches. So it's not a train smash if you haven't got them exactly the right background size. It's very easy to trim off.
Sanding quite nicely now.
Yeah, you can see it here, especially against the grey mat.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody at that point.
Yeah.
Everybody seems okay?
Nothing on WhatsApp.
Right.
Anybody there?
Are you all alive?
They concentrate.
Can I get a hi? Can I get a wave that everyone's okay?
There we go. There it comes up.
Okay, perfect. Good show. All right, the next piece that we're going to use, we're going to cut our borders. We're going to use sheets number 7009 and 710, sandcastles and beach ball. Both of these, we're going to use the quote strips that are on the bottom. So we're going to cut both of these borders off to use on our background.
009.
9 and 10, sandcastles and beach ball. Do a picture quickly. Okay, so on the group, it's showing you the two numbers that we're using. We're just for now cutting the border strips.
We're not using the paper, hey?
We are going to use
Okay.
the paper, but you can set it aside for now. We'll come back to it. So these are the two border strips we're using with the quotes. They don't need to be trimmed top to bottom. Meg, we're giving you a second. She says, give me a second.
Well, that was 5 minutes ago, so I think her
But she's just said it now again.
Oh, shit.
Okay, there's one more border strip that we need, and it's on 7004, this sheet called Tidal Pool. And we're cutting this border strip off again, which we will then wavy cut with the scissors. We're not going to be using the rest of this piece of paper. So once you've cut this border strip off, you can put this page away. It's on the second layout.
Page names will make you want to go to the beach.
Yeah. Well, luckily we're up the road from the beach. Okay, and if you are ready, you can just wavy cut this one. If you want to leave a little bit of white showing, you can. You can cut it straight on the line. You can sand it, you can ink it. Whatever floats your boat. There's another beach reference.
Yep. I would go to the beach, but I think it was Michelle that gave me a hard time about going and swimming with my
Priorities,
daughter.
Dennis, priorities.
I will man the WhatsApp.
Gotta keep us in check. Denise.
Yeah.
If you're not checking, imagine what you would say.
Okay, the last piece of border that we're going to need for this one, sorry, not the last, there's one more. On your cover, we might as well just do the borders now. On this cover sheet, on the back, there is this blue wavy border. So we're going to cut that one as well. Our Pringle jar is going to be empty because we're using lots here.
Yeah. Good job.
There's so many papers in this pack, there'll be lots of others. There it is. I was looking for my border strip. And the very last border strip is this page. It's called Seashells. It's number 7. And we're using the quote strip at the back.
How nicely did that print?
I love, this is one of my favorite pages, the bubbles. It's absolutely beautiful. If you tilt it, you get all these different colors. It is beautiful. I love it.
But even the mesh behind you, that pinkish mesh,
Yeah.
it looks
That's
silver.
so nicely. It's really, it changes in the light. It's beautiful. I love the bubble sheets in these papers. They're
I love
gorgeous.
dots.
And it's dots.
You kidding?
One of chicken dinner.
Are you serious? Do you really love dots?
A
I
lot,
would never guess.
a lot.
So these are the 6 borders. You see, we're using 6 borders on this page. These are the 6 borders that we are needing now. You've got 3 quotes and 3 wavy border strips.
So you don't need a Pringle jar.
You don't need a Pringle jar. We're using lots of them here. And now again, if you're into the sanding or the inking, you could do that now. It is a little tricky to sand sometimes these pieces, but if you put them on the edge of your mat, you'll be fine. So I'm out of shot a little bit, but I'm just going ahead and sanding these. You don't need to move, you all know how to sand. If anyone's not sure, you can just yell, but I think we're good now. The sanding on this particular layout also just gives that bit of like itchy, a little bit like weathered, sandy look. So it really, especially with this wood grain, I love it. Laura likes dots. My favorite paper is wood grain. If there's a wood grain paper in a paper pack, I am happy. Love wood grain.
Question from Heather. If she sanded on the base pages, will it look poofy if I chalk the waves, etc.?
I don't think so. I always like to sort of keep consistent, but it's absolutely your choice. I don't think so. Depends what color you're going to do, whatever makes you happy. Depends what color you're going to use. I think if you're going to use a dark color, but you know, if you don't like the sanding, you can go over it with ink.
Yeah.
So Heather, whatever floats your boat.
And then Rosemary has a tip. They put the ruler on the strip and then sand.
Great tip.
And
Rosemary's
then
a perfect lady.
Great tip. Then you don't have to keep. Oh, look at that.
Thanks, Rosemary.
Thanks, Rosemary. Even I didn't know that. That's fabulous.
Rosemary's the one that taught us about the perspective.
Fabulous.
Love this one. That's all the tricks.
Give me mine a little bit of a sand.
So just asking for a photo of all the strips that you used.
Do that.
That's all right.
Dust off my phone first. Right, so there's a picture of all the strips on the page, on the group, on the WhatsApp group, so you can have a look and just make sure that you've got all of that ready.
What's your favorite color scheme?
I won't lie, I love these colors. Love these. I do love blues and greens, teals. I mean, I'm a pink girl at heart, but I can only do so many pink layouts, you know. Pink isn't always the easiest, and I only have boys. Not that I scrap with photos, but that's another story. But one day when I put photos on, there'll be lots of pink pages. Obviously, I love anything pink and sparkly and glitter, but my favorite colors to work with are actually blues and greens, and those sort of teal colors. Beautiful. I generally prefer lighter. I don't want to say bright, not sort of pastels and these sort of medium colors, not very dark colors.
We see that in sales as well. The pastel collections
Pastels.
and blue and pink, coral pink are the
The coral
Big
is
sellers.
like Ocean Bliss last year, that
Yeah.
It was
that
beautiful.
plain sheet you made, or
Yeah.
I could have had
Exquisite.
1,000 of
Yeah.
those sheets.
And also, I think they're very versatile, these colors, because they work for just about anything. You can do it for outdoor photos. You can do it for travel, kids. You know, they're not age or gender specific. So yeah, blue's a great color.
I was just thinking,
Any
now
shade
you
of
must
blue.
only have boys now. What, you have like 10 granddaughters?
Well, I live in hope. We'll see. Okay, so we're going to stick these down now. We're going to put our borders. We're going to put our borders along here and along here. On the sides, we're going to leave back for now. So we need the 2 blue quote strips and our background pages. We need these 2 and those 2, the very dark blue and the sort of coral color border strip. You can just put aside for now. We've prepped them for just now. And now here's your choice if you want to use tape or you want to use glue. I use tape for everything. That's just who I am. I like to use thin tape on these, and the reason why is because I don't tuck all my elements underneath when I stick down. I like to do my base pages and then add all my bits, and then often I like to tuck something in. So I generally will put a thin piece of tape here that there's still a little bit of give if I feel like sticking something underneath just now. But if you prefer to use glue, you are welcome to do that.
Which one are you using now?
I'm using a 6mm.
No, man. Which
Oh.
one? Zigzag.
I'm putting tape on both of my border strips, the wavy borders,
Sorry.
the lighter blue and the coral. Those 2. And then these 2 can also have tape on. You can use a slightly thicker tape, but I have this one out. At the end of the day, most of our layouts go into albums, into sleeves, or into frames. So I'm never too worried about every single little corner or every little piece being completely stuck down. If you've got tape on it, it generally stays.
Let's put.
Yeah. Right.
Juliet, is it looking at your base layout there? I see you don't do things symmetrical. So the
I
one
do
side-
sometimes
Is
on
it,
this
is it
particular.
better to off-center things like that? Or-
So it really depends on my mood and how I feel. Very often I do like a balance left and right.
Okay.
Sometimes like here you can see the measurements are different because this particular element I didn't want to just have on the left page because then I couldn't do a border. So I shifted it over a little bit, making sure that the photo is not affected. And then those borders became smaller. So you don't always have to mirror. You don't always have to do the pages exactly the same. I very often do them exactly the same with the same widths on either side, but many times you mix it up and you can have a thick border here and a thin one. As long as your colors all work together and you've got a bit of balance in terms of all your elements, you can mix and match your sizes. It does not have to be a mirror. That's what I think. Okay, so we're going to stick our, this is also why I use a small piece of tape, because I want to sort of have it overlapping this, but I don't want to stick it first. So I'm going to stick my border down next to this. If your page is still loose, you can tuck it underneath, but you can also just put it right next to it. See?
That's the left, okay.
The left, this is on the left page. And again, as we said in the previous class, I like the words to read up, on the right-hand side down. But on the left-hand side, I always feel like the words, the title needs to go from the bottom to the top. And if you're repeating it on the right, then from the top to the bottom. It's not a rule. I think visually it just works better than the other way around. Flush against the edge.
Oh, so not tucked.
You can tuck it if you've got a gap. But if you don't have a gap, then you can do it flush against the edge. And if you see now, because I use thin tape, you'll see I've actually still got a bit of a gap underneath here. So I can tuck this border underneath. A little bit of maneuvering, or you can also just put it right next to it. That's done. And we're going to do exactly the same on the other side. This time we're using the coral border. And Michelle, our speed queen, is of course done. She's something else.
The pressure of me.
She's something else. Super fast. Okay. My piercer is my favorite tool, for those who haven't noticed. Okay. And that's our background, basic background done.
We have a loo and coffee break.
How's everyone doing? Do we need a little coffee break?
Just 5 minutes. and
Yeah, we can do that.
People can catch up.
If you want to run to the loo and or make yourself a cup of coffee, get a snack, we'll be back in 5.
Yeah.
And then those who aren't ready can just finish gluing their bits together or finish your fussy cutting. I've got the rest of my fussy cutting here in the baking tray. So if you're still busy with that, you can get some of those elements ready. We'll see you guys
Do
in
you
5.
chalk all of those that you fussy cut now, Jill?
No. If I haven't chalked my backgrounds, then I don't chalk my fussy cuts.
Okay.
I cut them all. If you have a look, I cut them all with a little white border.
That's why you keep the white border.
So if you fussy cut right on the images, I always just cut a little bit inside the black lines, the cut lines. But if you've done that, you can also sand them and you'll get that little white edge again. It's a bit of an effort, but you can. So I cut, if you look, I cut with a little bit of a white border, and it basically mimics the look of the sanding. So all of your images, if you put them on here, you'll see they've got a little white border. So it looks just like the sanding, but you don't need to do anything else to them. You don't need to sand them. You don't need to ink them unless you want to. If you've inked everything else, you can ink your fussy cut pieces too. Okay. Any other questions? You want to take some close-ups here?
Okay, so they're asking if you'll put the fussy cuts in there, or maybe take a photo. Can I take a photo?
Sure.
Watch me drop it. Oh, you can.
I'll do it. Just
Watch
in
me
case.
drop it.
Okay, I'm going to take a picture. There probably are more items here than what I've used on the layout, but obviously some of them I'm using on the second layout. I haven't cut my circles yet because we're going to do that with the punches. There's a couple of little quotes and things like that, but you can have a look there at the fussy cuts. If you get any little edges like this where your things don't line up, just nip it with the scissors and run your sanding block over it. Sometimes there's slight differences, but a little bit of sanding will just hide any of that.
No, I'm getting my points on my game. The room is getting hot, so it's not just me.
We've got the end this one.
Oh, whatever. As long as you guys are okay.
We can open that up. That's nice.
What does she got outside?
She
She
goes
goes
like
5 centimeters.
She's like they're waiting.
So that's fine. But the temperature's definitely changing.
Yeah.
Oh, the afternoon. Yesterday we cooked here.
Luckily it's overcast.
Yeah, my legs
Yes,
got
the sun was
sunburned.
coming, it was so, it was so hot.
My legs
Hoe
got-
die masjien het nie uitgesin. Ander keer het hulle dit weer op.
What do you know?
Hoe die kat is op die laptop.
Oh, the cat, we unmuted that.
Ons hoor jy like,
Julle gaan unmute.
this is mine.
Yeah.
Have it. Have it. Lucky fish. Oh, you put the fan on here.
Yes, but over there.
That's nice.
I hope you're all having a chocolate break. Because chocolate is extremely important when scrapping. It's my fuel.
Do you need a chocolate?
I've just had one, thanks.
Oh, okay. I love samba. Flings, and then you use a toothpick because I don't do it to my hand.
Even with chips.
I do. Sometimes I use this pair of scissors and I'm.
Yeah, well, you can't get flings fingers all over your
Oh, no.
paper anyway. Chips and
Chips
dips
and
are not good with scrapping because you get fatty fingers, but chocolate works very well.
Just don't touch the wrapper. You need to be really remember. We were so fussy cutting for like we had to. It's so funny just now. It was a very good gift.
Has the crickets bug with you, Juliet?
I'm a silhouette girl.
Okay.
Sorry. I haven't bought a
Has
cricket.
the machine cutting?
No, I've had a silhouette. I've had a cameo
Right.
for years. I absolutely love my cameo. I won't say I use it all the time, but I do use it quite a bit. It's very much personal choice. My personal opinion is all the machines do the same thing. It's your designs and it's your design store and ease of use. And my opinion is that the cameo, the silhouette has a superior design store. Their design store is absolutely fabulous. There's everything you can find. The software is extremely easy to use, to weld, to add, to change shapes. The Cricut design space, I think, is a little more complicated. Although I'm not an expert, I haven't had tons of experience with it, but I'm a cameo girl all the way. So never say never, because I like to have them all.
Yeah.
But I do love my cameo. So yeah, it is nice to use. Yeah, I do some titles and little images and things like that, but not tons.
You have to name one tool that you can't scrap without.
So I haven't used it here, but I do love my frame punch board. We Are Memory Keepers has got a punch board that cuts out frames for you. I love using frames. And then you've got to draw it. That's how I do my perfect frames. Got a frame punch board. It's amazing. You can make any size frame, and it does the little rounded corners. You can make Polaroids. I absolutely love it. It's a great tool. There has been no stock for probably a year or two. So we need them. They're fabulous. So that's probably my favorite tool because it just makes life so easy. And yeah, but it's a bit rare. You can't get them at the moment.
The factory is just not produced.
No. So if you have one of those, it's gold. And I love using frames instead of just a matching. But it is a mission. You've got to turn it around, you've got to measure, draw your thing, cut it out with a craft knife. So that punch board's a win.
Have a look on the WhatsApp group from Natasha though.
Oh,
Bring gin.
Gin and chocolate.
oh.
There's
Where's
this
the
Taryn.
limoncello?
What was it? Not Taryn?
Tartan.
Tartan.
Tartan Gavin is having
Love
a
your
ball.
choice of snack. Perfect. Chocolate is vitally important.
Yeah,
Okay, is everybody back? Are we good to go? Shall we carry on?
Yeah.
So we do that.
So let's-
Okay, so let's put this aside for now. We're going to carry on and just cut some of our mattings, cut the rest of the papers, and then we can do all the assembly. Okay, so this sheet, we have cut the barcode off, but it's the one I was showing you with the beautiful bubbles. You can literally just cut it in half between the two colors. That'll be 6 inches or just over 16 15 point something centimeters. We're going to use the blue piece. You can use either side. I've used the one that's a little bit blue with white bubbles, but it really doesn't matter which side you use. I'm going to show you where we're using it. This ideally is where you put a photo, but the bubbles just look so pretty coming through here. So you can even put small photos if you don't want to use a big photo here, and then you'll still see bits of the bubbles. So this is the piece we're cutting now. And the size we are going to cut it is 20 centimeters.
So half, great. Or the full sheet.
Well, we're cutting it in half, the blue side, and then we're cutting it 20. So 15 by 20. As we need. So I'm giving you the width first. 15 by 20, width by height. So that's the piece that we need. I'm going to put that just here. Michelle can take a picture of it for me.
We need
Right.
any more of this.
No,
Put it
we
away.
don't need any more of that. You can put it away. The next sheet we're using, we've again cut the strip off, so I'm not going to give you the reference, but it's got this blue with a bit of a wavy, yeah, sort of wavy water look on the one side, and on the back we've got bubbles and mesh.
Okay.
Okay, so we are going to cut from this side. We're going to cut 2 pieces that are 10 by 15 centimeters, 2 of them. So it's a 4 by 6. So you can cut it 10 height.
With the lines running left to
With
right.
it doesn't really matter, but if you want to follow the waves, you want to have your lines running horizontally. So when we turn it like that, our waves are running that way. And you can cut it in half to 6 inches or 15 centimeters. And we have 2 pieces like that are the same. Just photograph this. Yes. Okay.
Finished with this piece.
Finished with that piece, yes. You can put that away. Our next piece is this one. There are 2 of these sheets. This is the one that we've cut the border off. And it's the one that's got blue wavy lines and orange wavy lines. The other one looks a little different. And we're cutting 2 blocks. Basically, these 2 blocks, it doesn't matter which side, we are going to use the gravel side. So we're cutting that piece off and then cutting that in half. The size is 10 by 15. The blocks are already, you don't even need to measure. You just cut along the white line. Then you could put all these pieces away. And those are the 2 pieces that we need. I will just put the size on. Photographer working hard behind the scenes here. So we've got those 2 pieces. So these are just standard from the block sheet. You don't need to measure. And then the last sheet, well, it's not the last sheet, sorry. Sorry, ladies, we actually do need the other sheets.
Second one.
Do you need this sheet? Okay, so from this other sheet, this is number 11. We're going to cut the stone block out from number 11. Doesn't actually matter if you use the blue one or you use that one. They've both got stone on the back. Yeah, this one we're actually using on this side. Sorry, so the one pebble we've cut now, we're actually using that orange side, the coral mesh side, net.
Using both bottoms of it.
Just one.
The front.
You can decide which one of these you want to use and which one you want to keep. I haven't used them on the second layout. So you just decide which of the woods you want to keep. You can use either of them for now.
I'm hoping Brenda Corbellari made a typo, but she wants to know the size of the pathetic bubble paper.
The what?
The pathetic bubble paper.
Brenda, can you enlighten us a little bit
Brenda,
the size of the bubble paper?
I'm not
Oh,
following
bubble.
you, but you can unmark yourself quickly if you want to explain.
I'm gonna put all the pieces out now that we're gonna use. But
They're just falling a
if
little
you
bit
mean,
behind.
yeah, I'm gonna recap. This is 15 centimeters by 20. The bubble paper.
The pathetic bubble.
The pathetic bubble paper. It's beautiful. So let's just cut the last piece. I think we have actually. No, we've got one more piece to cut. And then I'm going to show you exactly, we'll recap all the cutting. This is the next piece we're using. 7008 flip-flops. It's again got the, this is in the coral. It's got the bubbles and the net. And it's got the coral wash or waves on the other side. And we're again just going to cut a piece. In fact, I prefer if you cut this in half, because then you get to choose which side you want to use. Let's cut it from the back. This border strip we are using on the second layout, so Pringleton. We can cut this piece in half as well, two splits. We're not going to use this piece. We need this for the second layout. So we're going to cut now what we're cutting. We're going to cut from the bubbles paper. We must use this, otherwise we're going to run short in the second layout. Okay, we are using the reverse side, but you need to cut it from, so rather keep it bubble side up for now, so that you make sure you cut from the right side. And these sizes are 7.5 by 7.5 square. So you can cut, we're going to have 2. So you can cut your 7.5, which is 3 inches. And you can cut it in half this way, and your pieces will be the same size. Flip them over, and that's what we want.
Put the rest away.
You can put the rest away. So I'm going to recap all the cutting here.
You're going to recap, right?
Yeah, I'm going to recap all the cutting now. I'm going to lay it out, and then we're going to go over all the cutting pieces again.
They seem to be battling to know which full sheet those pages come from.
I'll show you the full sheets now. Let me just photograph this and then we will go over it again. Right, so I'm going to show you the full sheets again that we've cut this from, so that there's no confusion for those that still need to do it. Okay, let's start with these. You've got number 10 and number 11. These are the sheets with all the multiple blocks. You're going to cut these 2 blocks off of number 10. The one side we're going to use the pebbles, and the other side we're going to use, for the right piece, we're going to use the coral fishnet. Okay, that's the piece we're cutting now. That one and that one off of number 10. Then off from number 11, we're just cutting one more piece of pebbles. So you can either use this one if there's pebbles on the other side, or you can use that one. You can choose which one you'd like to use. We don't need them for anything else. So that takes care of those 3 pieces. Okay, then these are the 2 full sheets for the last bit. Sorry, we still got the bubbles for those 2. It's number 8 and number 9, flip-flops and sandcastles. They both look like this on the front, and on the back, they've both got a net and bubbles. For the coral sheet, we are only cutting these 2 small mats, and we're cutting them from the bubbles side. I want you to keep this whole net side intact for the second layout. So don't confuse this piece with this that we cut from the block sheet. So we're going to cut 2 pieces from this side, 7.5 by 7.5. We're just using it in reverse. We're just using the plain side, although you can also use the bubbles if you like. So that's from there. That's all we need from here for now. From the blue piece, this is not the same as this bubble piece. These bubbles are darker. We're going to cut 2 mats of 10 by 15. You can either do it that way, or you can do it that way, or you can do it that way. You can actually do it anywhere on the page. But I have cut them from the top using that side because I want these wavy lines running horizontally like the sea. Okay, so those are those pieces. And this last piece is this one. It was number 7. It's called Seashells. It's got a very faint blue and sort of gray tan pattern on the front. And on the back, it's got your gray and your light blue bubbles. We've cut this piece from the blue side from here. And it's 15 centimeters by 20 your height. Okay. Anybody got any more questions?
Heather says she's got it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Great job, Heather. Oh. So you can go ahead now. I've put the pages all up on the direction that with the side that we're going to be using, and you can sand all of these pieces. And sorry, there is actually one more piece we're going to use. We already cut this. We cut it off from this sheet. This sheet where we cut the 2 pebbles pieces, we need that blue wavy piece as well. The size is 20 by 15. You don't need to measure it. You just cut along the white lines. And we're using that piece. Yeah, we're using that one as well. We're going to use the blue side, and the measurement is 20 centimeters wide by 15 high, and we are using it in this horizontal orientation. Just about there. You're sanding, you can go ahead and sand. This piece does not need to be sanded because it's going to be hidden. So if you're an overachiever, you would have done it like sanding. But this piece is going to be behind things, so you won't see if it's sanded. But all of these, you can go ahead and sand or chalk or ink, however you're edging your pieces. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that. If there's any questions, please just put your mics on or put it on the group. So I've got a fan blowing on me, so all the dust is blowing up in my face. That's fine. It's blowing. No, it's good. Dust. Sides in case.
That's a well-used.
But it's still going, eh?
But they aren't any to be bought at
There's
the
none
moment.
available at the moment. We are waiting for the shipment. And we've been waiting a while.
The tonic ones. This is
The tonic one's also nice, but it's also not always available.
Yeah.
So these ones are super cheap. I've still got a Making Memories one for those of you who remember Making
I
Memories.
think I've still got one.
This one has lasted me, I don't know, 10, 15 years, and it still works. So it all depends on what grit I'm looking for, but it works just as well. It's fabulous. I'm going to keep it consistent now with it. And you know, you can actually use like the nail technicians, those of us that do our nails, the nail technicians have got these buffing boards. They're not quite as gritty like this. They work really well, but they're not always as, they tend to go smooth very quickly. But then you can actually buy light grit sandpaper and stick it on, which is pretty much what this is. It's a foam piece with different grits around it. So if you have a little block like this, don't throw it away if it gets smooth. Just buy really light grits or medium grit sandpaper and you can actually stick pieces on and do exactly the same thing with it. So some of these we've already cut with a little bit of a white border, depending on how you've cut it, so you don't even need to sand them that much. We just want them to be consistent all the way around. Any questions? Everybody?
Just answer this.
Oh, yeah, you can't see my dust flying around.
We'll have an estimate check to smell.
It's going to look like
I
dandruff when
asked
I'm
them,
done.
Michelle said no, and everyone was, and then you guys will concentrate. I concentrated.
I'm good, thanks. Oh, no one can see me.
Try your chocolate.
I talking about it.
Eh?
No, I'm good,
What,
thanks.
what one do you want?
No, I'm fine later.
Sorry, Kelly Gurney says have an amazing time. I wish I was there with people. Dennis and Aaron, a big hug from me.
Thank you.
We need to be here.
What flavor?
She sent me a message earlier as well.
Where's she from?
Australia. Kelly came out to teach us. She's come out for Serena. She's come out for us. She's taught alongside Michelle, one of our ones.
So I'm de-dusting my mat. Bit of a neat flip.
The dust is bad.
Love it. Although it does make you sneeze sometimes.
You are the perfect person for online because you just tidy and fix your
I
space
like a
every
neat
5 minutes.
workspace.
Sorry, Laura, you're obviously not
Mine is like very tidy.
Could you wet wipe it like every 5 minutes?
No. Okay.
But also Juliet also tends to pull the mat towards herself.
I do,
I'll say
sorry, it's
nothing.
because of the sanding.
I keep pulling the soapbox, like stand up a little bit. So it's hard when you got to.
I'm short.
That's what I'm saying, you need to actually have a little box.
I need a
maybe-
pedestal
Yeah,
because I'm little.
Control.
But I do pull it towards to me because of the sanding, but I keep forgetting to push it back
I just
into.
moved it up
into
so
frame.
none of us got our toes and bellies.
Yeah, that's perfect like that. Okay, so for those of you that are ready, you can go ahead, and I have not raised any of these with foam tape. Those of you who know my scrapping know that how much I love foam tape. I love raising things, but you can't raise everything. So all of the photo mats and the background pieces I put flat. So you can go ahead and put tape. If you're going to glue, then wait till you put them down. But if you are taping, you can turn them all upside down and you can prep all of these with tape.
Michelle Nettling says
And then-
she feels naked, no chalking. It's a new experience.
Sorry, Michelle, but I'm going to convert you. You'll see. Or not. So I like to just put tape on my ends, and then I put 1 or 2 pieces in the middle. I'm quite liberal with the tape. I don't like to hope that something is glued down.
Oh.
If you're a tape user, it's really nice to have various thicknesses. I often work with a 6 mil. This is a 12 mil. And then I love my 10 mil as well, which is just in the middle. Because when we stick things like this, which generally are 12 mil, if you don't stick it straight, then your tape goes over. So the 10 mil just gives you that little bit of a breather on either side. So it's nice to have all different size tapes. Turn them all upside down, and then you know the side that's not sanded.
Look, what I know is that if I look around me, there's way more where I've got this from.
Okay, good. So it's a deal.
I'm saying.
Just saying, hashtag.
Sorry for you at home.
Do you still use older machines like the Cuttlebug or?
Yeah, I've got a Cuttlebug and a Go Cut.
Okay.
I keep the one at home and the one at my store so that I just carry my dies between the two, but I use them both. Yeah.
I think thanks to that event by Karina, everybody has a go-kart.
I will be honest, I prefer the Go Cut. I prefer the
Okay.
Go Cut because it stands nice and flat. Whereas the Cuttlebug, you've got that suction, it's wobbly. The Go Cut has got a lovely flat base. I actually prefer it, but they both cut the same. But there's something to be said for the good old-fashioned die. You know, putting a die in and just rolling it through with your off-cut of
And
paper.
embossing.
It's fuss-free and it's quick and easy. It's not great when you're doing it for kids because it's tons and tons of work.
Yeah.
But just to put a little thing on your layout, the original die cut machines are fabulous. You can't get Cuttlebugs anymore though. So if you find one secondhand, girls, grab it.
I've got 4. I need another.
I've also got 3, but the 2 of them are broken. So then but I don't throw them away just in case I find someone who can fix them.
Is it a space for the
Yeah.
machine?
Yeah.
The foil machine, it'll bite you.
I've got one.
Got one.
Don't love it. It didn't do what I'd hoped it would.
Yes.
I foiled quite a few chipboards successfully, and that was quite nice. A little bit of process because you had to heat them first, but it foiled chipboards really nicely. But unless you're using the foiling dies, and they were very specific, it's not such a huge range, then you can't just foil things on paper randomly. It wasn't that easy. But I foiled chipboards really nicely, and that was quite successful. I do love the tools and the gadgets.
She who dies with the most points
Supplies
wins.
wins, yeah. Absolutely.
Tanya Klutter, her die cutting on her layout
Amazing.
is just amazing.
You see, with the digital machines, not that you can't cut this on a Cameo or a Brother or a Cricut, you can. But it's so much easier if you have a die cut like this. Just the intricate dies just cut beautifully on the roller machines. They really do. You've got to set your speed very, very slow, and your paper's really got to be right to cut very intricate details on the electronic machines.
As a store owner, I'm very happy to let Dennis make money and cut chipboard.
Absolutely. And why cut it if you can just chipboard it? For
Seriously.
sure.
And
We actually
everybody
should take a little like little
service.
video span of your chipboard row. Behind the wall, behind us, there's a row of chipboards. And I think so many of us forget how many of them there are because, you know, we've sold them out and we don't always reorder, but they've got hundreds. And I was looking this morning, they're so beautiful. And the stencils, they've got so many. So we maybe need to do a little drive to restock all our shelves with all your different
That would be
chipboards.
lovely.
The ones that we've all forgotten about because they've got fabulous, fabulous designs. So maybe we'll do a little photo thing just now.
Cool.
People can point out, give me this. Okay, so are you all taping your matchings? Do we need some more time? You can actually tape this piece as well.
Juliet, Megan wants to know where your store is. in Cape
My
Town.
store is in Durbanville, in beautiful Cape Town.
And we've got a hello
In
from
Northern
Cape
South.
Town from Michelle, Barbara, and Jenny.
Oh, hello
Scoping Jenny's
girls.
house.
Shelley and Jen and Barbara. Hello, ladies. Okay, shall we start sticking down? Are we ready for that? Okay, now when I do the notes for the Celebr8 layouts, I do normally give you centimeters from the top and the right and the left and that, because I know so many people like that. I personally eyeball everything and then afterwards go and measure it. So I'm going to give you a guide for those that want to measure it, but please don't feel you have to stick it exactly like that. If you look at this, we're going to start with the right page. The background's a little bit collage, so it doesn't have to be so many centimeters from the top or the bottom. You really can eyeball it, but I'm going to give you more or less some measurements just to help you out if you prefer that. So we're going to start with this piece. This piece is going to go roughly there.
Are we sticking or we're going to put everything down?
We're going to stick piece by piece. So we're going to start with this piece on the right page. Let's just move that one out of the way. Should I measure it so that I can?
You just want to keep your.
So it's
Jellyfish
roughly,
exposed.
I beg your pardon?
You just want to keep the jellyfish exposed.
Yeah, well, we're actually going to stick over most of it. So you've got a fussy cut jellyfish that you can add. So it's about 6 centimeters from the right, and I'm talking from right off the page. And from the top, let's do it from the bottom because I've covered it. It's about 10.5 centimeters from the bottom. So you can even position this on your cutting mat if you like, and you can measure 10.5. You can work it in like that, but I'm just going to eyeball it. So it was roughly 6 from the right-hand side and 10.5 from the bottom. Bye, jellyfish. There's another one on the fussy cut sheet, so we can find him later. Okay, I'm going to stick that one down. And then the next piece we're going to use is this one. This guy is about 3 centimeters from the bottom of your page. Do it upside down so long. And about 10.5 from that side. So what you can do is if you want to measure and you don't want to hold it in place, you can do that. And you measure up 3 from the bottom. You can just take your piercer and make like a little pinprick. And then when you stick it down, you just stick it over that corner. So that's so you don't have to take a pencil mark. I just make a tiny little hole with my piercer and then I stick my piece over it. So that's more or less what we're doing here. I don't like them skew. Okay. So all this is doing is just creating a bit of collage on the background. Most of these are going to be covered with our photo mats.
With your hands, don't cover. Okay.
I'll hold it up a little bit. Let's see here.
It doesn't matter if it's not perfect.
It doesn't matter if it's not perfect because there's things going over it.
It's hit and miss.
Hit and miss. Eyeballs.
Juliet, I must say, people are sending photos in of their groups, and it's really nice to see so many people scrapping together. We've got 5 ladies from Edenvale scrapping at somebody's house. Yeah, Michelle Ashford, Isabel Brown, Sue Van Duren, Di Illman, and Michelle B.
Nice.
Yeah.
Lekker.
But it's still safe. Big numbers.
Brenda asks if we just give them a minute.
Sure, no problem.
A few mistakes being made, but they're fixing it.
Yeah.
Lovely to see. I'm looking at the pictures now on my phone. Lovely to see all of you. All looking happy and relaxed, which is good.
Nobody's crying. Your page was so hard.
Oh, wait, they haven't done all this. This is the easy part. No, it's all easy.
I'll save your tears. I think tomorrow might be a bit more.
Yeah.
You might need some reserves.
We've got all the pop-ups tomorrow. Oh,
A mini album and
And
pop-ups.
pop-ups and mini album with pop-ups.
Right, so these 2 pieces, can I just show the next 2 matchings? Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to double mat these, but not in the traditional way. We're going to offset them. So you're going to glue that piece to that just on one corner. It doesn't matter which way you do it. We're going to swing them around. We're going to do the one from the top and one from the bottom. You don't need to measure. I would say it's roughly between 0.5 centimeter to 1 centimeter. It's just a little different way of double matching a photo. Instead of doing a double frame, you can actually just offset and it shows a little bit of that pebble pattern underneath. So that's what you're going to stick. You can stick the blue to the pebble pieces now. Again, I don't measure. Just if you want to keep it straight, then you position it on the grid lines on your cutting mat. And you can't go wrong.
So you can't. You shouldn't go.
Then you pluck a bloom. Or in this case, a seashell.
Or a seed.
Or a seals.
for the twig.
We want the jellyfish.
We want it.
Okay, and again, if you feel like you've gone skew, you can just, or you've got too much showing, you can just take your trimmer and you can snip a little bit off. Nobody will even know. And then you have to sand again. Are you complaining about the sanding, Sandy? Good girl.
I'm not a big cheat.
Sanding.
Yeah.
From the borough.
From the
From the
queen.
borough. The queen from the borough.
Okay, so we all at that point?
Yep.
Okay. Right, now we're going to need, I've just realized that I haven't cut my tabs yet, so
Yeah,
I'm going
I'm
to
putting them
quickly
for
do
you.
that.
I don't want to use mine.
No, it's going to be quick. Can I just a tip?
Just thought about it.
For those of you who've already cut, please don't worry. But I've just learned from this sheet, I always cut my tabs with a little bit more of a border. So I'm just going to just get those out the way first. So in this case, we're going to use the Sunkissed tab and the Summertime. You can actually use any of them. But what I like to do, show you, just cut them off the page first. Okay, so I'm going to cut inside the black lines. I like to leave a bit of a white border. So I like to leave that at the bottom. You can see there, because it just gives you, especially if you're doing a little mini book, it's not so important on the layouts. but you don't often have enough space to tuck it underneath something because the word sometimes goes right to the end. So I often just leave a little bit of white. It doesn't matter on these layouts because you're just sticking it down. But a tip for when you're making a pocket or a fold or a flap like we did in Laura's class, just leaving a little bit of extra helps you stick it down.
So last night you said you don't have a tagline, but I think it's tuck spot.
Possibly.
I don't think
And I don't, I tuck all my things in afterwards. So that's why I use tape, because it's very easy to just do that with my piercer and stick something underneath. I don't always like to have everything underneath. I add all of these little details afterwards. So then if you've got a little bit of pull, you know, you've got a little bit of pieces not completely stuck down, you can just add it afterwards. Okay, so those are the two tabs we're going to use now. And we're going to stick these two onto our page. I'm going to give you the measurements again for those that want it. Roughly 2.5 centimeters from the left side. Again, just
But now we mustn't stick them down because we're still going to put stuff there. Hey?
That's just what I'm saying. I cut those off and stick them on underneath afterwards. If you have your fussy cuts ready, you can, but I do them all
Well, you
afterwards.
look this closer to the camera, just so,
So
we
if you
can
have a
see
look
what they
here,
are.
okay, I can show you what the fussy cut pieces are, but I often just cut them off and just slide them under the top of the mat. So you don't always have to put them on now, unless you would prefer to. Even here, I just tuck it underneath. But if you use tons of glue, then you need to make sure you do it before. Okay, so it's roughly, for those that want the measurements, 2.5 centimeters from the edge of the page, and from the top, roughly 2 centimeters. So again, I just do this kind of thing, and I just make a little pinprick. And then you can measure your piece. You can see the way I've put the tape, you know, there's sort of like 0.5 centimeter or a few millimeters gap, so it's easy to tuck a tag
spot.
for a tuck spot. There we go. My new tagline. Hashtag tuck spot. Okay, so this one's going that way.
I'm looking at baking tray now.
And you, that's all your baking tray. And you can put your little tab underneath. I'm using wet glue for that. You see it just slips underneath. Make sure the lines are hidden. Okay. Bottom one we're going to place just next to it, or just underneath it, sorry. And I've lined, on this one, I've lined the two blue mats up and not the actual frame. So the pebbles are sticking out a bit. We're going to do this tab underneath. Just put glue on the bottom of your tab so that if you still want to put your photo in, you know, I love overlapping things onto pages, and obviously we do the photos afterwards. So I always make sure I don't stick things down. You can see that that is still quite loose. I've just glued the bottom so that you can still tuck your photo underneath and not have to tear something up when you're ready for your photos.
Juliet, I think you were telling us the other day that when you create your layouts, you do all of this without sticking anything down,
Yes.
photograph, and then go back and
100%. So when I design a layout, I will literally have placed almost every single thing here and nothing is stuck down. I cut and I move things around and nothing has got glue on. And then when I'm kind of happy with it, obviously I do make a few changes sometimes towards the end. When I'm happy with it, then I take a photograph of it and I put my phone or my iPad or whatever in front of me, and then I start gluing down and actually stick it down. But I create this whole thing without sticking a single piece of paper down. That's generally my process. Even I might not have always colored my chipboards, but I've placed them. So that's just my process. I realize we all work differently, but I will spend hours like, must that shell go here or there, or I drive myself nuts. But yeah, it's a good day when I stick things down. Okay, so, right, so this is where we are now. We've stuck those two down. And you can see, even though we're covering this, this is just creating a little bit of extra layering underneath the photo, just for some visual interest. I love layering papers on top of each other. And sometimes you cover a lot of it, but then you bring it all back with your embellishments, because so many of the embellishments have got all the little elements on them, and you just layer them on top. So all the things that we're covering, it's very easy to bring back with the bits on the tags and the circles and the fascicles. Bless you. So I'm going to, while I'm doing this, I'm going to cut my circles. I've not done that yet. Show you the circles that we need. Need those two from the 1.5, eh? 1.5 inch. And from the 2-inch punch, we need this large summer one. Okay, so we'll set those aside so long, and we're going to go to our left page. Okay, we're going to stick this bubbles piece down. You don't need to trim any of the corners. Our beautiful big, very hectic fussy cutting piece is going to cover it. Okay, so we're going to stick this bubbles piece down. We're going to do it right against, flush against the right edge, and it's a roughly 5 centimeters from the top. If you measure that when you position it, you should be fine. So it's going to go roughly there. We're good to go.
Oh, flush.
Yeah, flush against the edge. It's about 5 centimeters from the top. And then the last two pieces are just our last two little photo mats here. We're going to do that, and then our base is down, and we're going to do all the layering on top. Not going to measure this. You just need to have them, let me just do it anyway, 1 centimeter more or less from the right, and about 1.5 from the bottom. Okay. Should I take a photo and just show us the base, show you the base pages?
Erin's taking this seriously.
Me? Because I didn't know if you had to do that.
These process photos also help for those that aren't doing it live, that they can see the backgrounds and all the steps.
So if you're behind.
Yeah.
But I think still put seahorses.
So I've put the 2 images up of what your base pages should look like. Okay, is everybody at that point? Can we move on? Anybody needs us to hang on a bit, please just say so or message on the group.
Juliet, I finished designing this collection and I looked at it and I just remembered, I think it was the sunflower range that we did.
Yeah.
There was a wreath. I was like, every time we do one, you use it. And I was like, Juliet would want a wreath. And now everybody's got to meet.
And I knew that people were going to curse us because it's so difficult to cut out, but it's
I mean,
so beautiful.
Every layout we've done with one.
I know. Yeah, that sunflower one was worse to cut than this.
Oh, really?
I think I did that whole border around the page. It was hectic, but this was pretty hectic on its own. Okay, so you're going to take out your fussy cut wreath. We are not going to use the whole piece. We're going to cut it off roughly. I think it's about, just see here, about 20 centimeters in height. And we've got a little bit of play because we're going to stick borders over it. So if yours is a little bit longer or shorter, please don't stress. But position it how you want it. I've put the seahorse image here at the top, and you're going to cut 20 centimeters from top to bottom. We're going to cut the bottom part of the wreath off. You can use a craft knife if you prefer. I'm just going to go ahead and do it on the trimmer. If you're not sure how to measure it because it's round, then take your ruler, put it on the 20 centimeters and do more or less like that.
Clever.
Look, clever time. Okay, doesn't matter if it goes slightly over. This is such a pretty piece. I'm sure you can find someone else to use it. One of your own layouts you can create with all the leftovers. Okay, girls, now we're going to need some like mega foam tape. However, before you do that, when I do foam tape, I love to do quite a bit of foam tape because I don't like my raised items
a few ladies asked if you can just give them 2
slow down.
minutes.
Sure. Okay, so just to recap, we're cutting about 20 centimeters top to bottom for this, but we'll hang on a few minutes so that everybody is with us.
We're not waiting for them to fussy cut that whole thing.
Ladies, if you haven't fussy cut this, then I'm sorry, we can't wait for you. You're gonna have to do it tonight. Because this is gonna take more than a few minutes. I won't lie. Yeah, just a little.
And stick that.
No, not sticking it because we're going to lift it first. And we're going to chop it still. So before we put foam tape on it, I want us to cut this. It's very difficult to cut once you've raised it and you've got foam tape going over your pages. So for those who are ready, because this can take a bit of time, you're going to just position it where you want it. It doesn't really, I don't ever worry if these little bits go slightly off my page. You can just nip them off. You're going to position it more or less. You definitely want, if you have a look, I'm pushing my ruler, you definitely want some part of this on the left page. Otherwise, it's going to flop. So if you have a look here, how I've positioned it, and then the other part. Now, for me, the easiest way to do this is to take my ruler and a craft knife.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to put it through the trimmer, because then you don't know if you're getting the right angle. So I basically do this. I have not stuck it down because I'm going to raise it with foam tape. And I basically put my ruler right on the end of my page, like that. On my cloth knife.
Yeah.
Oopsie. Stuck to my ribbons.
Thanks, Val.
What was someone saying about the
Yeah,
pins?
use a pin.
Please use a pin. Okay, and I'm just going to do this and cut it off next to the page. For me, that's the easiest way to do it, to keep it straight, and then you know when you stick this down, you've got your nice line on the page. So a lot of people don't like crossing things over in their album because you've maybe putting it in a ring binder album. Doesn't bother me at all. I think visually you can still see the page goes together. If you're putting it in a frame, obviously it doesn't bother you. But if it does bother you, you're welcome to shift this completely over or cut it off. But for me, it's semantics. It doesn't bother me. In an album, even with a divider, I can still see that it's one page. As long as you're not cutting through a photograph. I have done that in the past, but then you've got to make sure it's not a person's face or something. But generally, it's not ideal to have a photomatic unless you don't like it.
Or a divorce layer.
You're cutting your X out of the picture, there's a good reason. But it's not ideal to have a photo mat going across the middle of your pages. But for backgrounds and overlaps and things like that, I don't think there's any issue with that. Okay, so now we're going to put foam tape on this. I like to use a nice thick 3mm foam tape. For this piece, I'm going to do it along here so that against the edge of my page, it is nice and firm. And just add 1 or 2 little strips here. Like that.
No, I can't like that stuff.
This is a little tricky because it's thinner here. So I don't want it to flop. So I'm going to add a few little pieces here. And then just do that. Doesn't need to be neat. You can basically just, but the rule of foam tape is rather more than less. You rather want to have it everywhere than have your thing buckling. So I like to be quite generous. And if we run out of foam tape, we've all seen Erin's stash in the back, so we'll climb in there.
I don't think the supplier has that much.
I don't think so either. Okay, so we're just prepping these 2 pieces with foam tape or your foam squares or whatever it is that you use. And we're going to start by sticking the left piece down because it's the highest piece. So what I like to do also with foam tape is don't peel the whole thing off, because if you stick one piece skew, that's it, you're done. So I'm gonna just stick down the side. That's the most important, and that's the piece against the spine. Sorry, against the page edge. Position it first. Make sure it lines up there. Okay, once I'm happy with that placement, you can just go ahead and peel the rest off. And it will just position itself. I know some of you struggle to get these pieces off. This foam tape with the red is honestly the firmest, easiest one to use. The ones with the blue liner, yeah, it's a nightmare to get the sticky piece off. So this is my one of choice. And when you've done that, you can line up the second page. You're going to put your 2 pages next to each other and just line up more or less the 2 together. Okay. That's it. Let's take a picture. It's such a beautiful wreath. Magda's on track. She sent us a picture. Well done. Oh, awesome. I'm going to do it like this so you can see how it's raised.
we need to do with Michelle to see. So they're playing on their phones.
So ladies, you can also stick these things flat, but then your layout just looks flat. This foam tape is my second favorite consumable. My favorite consumable, should I say, other than glitter.
We showed you Erin's box there, so you know
Yeah.
that in common.
I see so.
I can do like 5 or 6 different things.
It is very eye-catching. The layout.
Yeah, and you get a little bit of shadow. You know, you get shadows behind it, so your page gets extra depth without inking or talking or anything like that. Makes tucking so definitely and easy to tuck things under. Tuck spots. Just in the meantime, I haven't cut my other sheet, so I'm just going to cut the 2 quotes that we need. It's this one and that one, because these are also going to be lifted with foam tape. I generally love to keep my photo mats flat, and it's not a rule, but it is probably 9 times out of 10 the way I do it. I put all my photo mats flat, unless there's a whole series in a row, then I'll raise every second or third one. And then I like to embellish, lift my quotes or little embellishment bits.
If you're scrapping in a group or in a store today, please send us some pics. Beautiful scrapbooks. Love to see what's happening your side. I think Isabella Studios in KZN, got some ladies scrapping there. Send us some photos.
Let's see what we're doing.
Actually, I haven't heard from Beautiful Scrapbooks since lunch.
Oh, that's such a big group of ladies. They're so
Taryn
busy.
likes to have like champagne fountains and things. I don't know if they're still with us. We need a proof of life.
Wave a watch. So, oh wait.
These are the 2 quotes we're going to use, and I'm going to go ahead and just put foam tape on both of these as well.
And the Marie money is worth my. She's boss was worth my. She probably finished already. I've never seen a scrapbook like that in my life.
I'm done. I'm bored with you guys.
Worth Macy. There we go.
Told you.
Worth Macy.
Oh. Ow.
Seems every province has got a Worth Macy. Or every
You can't
store
just
has
say
got
you're
it.
done. You got to send
Yeah,
us a
send us
photo.
proof.
We want
She's
proof.
really done. Proof of life.
Listen, I went for another class as well, and that's also done. So please, guys, come on, hurry up.
You go, girl.
You.
I think I won't say the same for tomorrow's classes. So watch out. I'll be behind.
Okay, so I've pulled out a few of the little
Fussy cut pieces that we're going to use.
So because we want to stick this card now, we are going to do those little circular bits. So I'm just going to show you. These are the pieces that I'm using now. There's a circle, little cowrie shell. What's it called? No, I got my names right.
Sand dollar or pansy.
Oh, but this one.
Oh, that one.
That's the pumpkin.
No, I can't
urchin.
see.
Oh, no, that one, that's the nautilus.
And nautilus. Okay.
Is it?
That's a little urchin or anemone or whatever they're called.
And now you've got to wait.
It's fine. I know there's lots of little fussy cut bits, so we'll give you time to find that.
We've had proof of life from Isabella Studios, but we're still waiting for beautiful scrap. There's 20 of them.
Is this too small or is this the right one? Right. Is this too small?
That one's fine. It is a little baby one.
Is there another one?
There's another one. There's a few of them, so you can just choose any one.
Keep looking.
No, that one's perfect, the one you had.
Okay, the sun is supposed to say I'm getting a sunburn. Come to class, get 50 facts to 50.
Just on the back.
Yeah. This morning it was so overcast.
All seasons.
Okay, so this one, I put foam tape on the back. I'm just going to peel one piece off for now so that I can position it. And it's going to go more or less here. It doesn't matter if it slightly overlaps your photo. Being foam tape, it's an easy tuck spot. So like that, I can still tuck things underneath it, which I'm going to do right now. Now, ladies, if you, obviously you want to put photos on. So, you know, I have stuck things down here to show you where I'm going to put them, but then just put a little bit of glue at the top and just glue it from the top now, so that that still stays unglued until you put your photo. Then at least your embellishment is in place, but it's not going to obstruct you placing your photo down. Sorry, that's the wrong one I showed you. That's actually for the other page. It's this one that I'm going to use now. This one.
Right. Okay, this one here.
Yes. And I'm just going to snip a little bit off the bottom because I want to tuck it underneath there and I need to make sure it fits. I'm just going to sort of cut it in half and just tuck it underneath there, as well as the little green guy. I can't remember his name. Okay, and then this piece is still loose, so you can put your photo. I can peel off that piece, the middle piece of foam tape. I can even leave this last piece of foam tape unstuck until I've done my photo in case it overlaps, but it's in place. Okay, so we've done that little detail at the top. And I think we can actually just go ahead and finish our little bits on this side, and then we will finish the wreath. So I'll get out the other pieces that we're going to use. Some of our pansy shells now, they should be dried. Got a large one and a medium-sized one. That one. I'll take a picture and send you all of these if you want to use the same elements.
Here comes the seahorse. Check.
Yay. Okay, let's take a picture of this. So I put on the group a picture of the little bits and pieces that we're going to be using now.
Oh, your eyes start deceiving you guys.
A lot of there are a lot of pieces we're not going to use, so you can choose any of the shells or starfish to use. The starfish is the medium-sized starfish. It's not the very big one. I've used the bigger one on the left page. I'm going to use a bit more foam tape. Behind the sunshine. And a little piece behind the starfish. Chipboard words are also dry now. So I'm going to stick my summertime. I'm going to do the time on the coral block and the summer over there.
Are they more than usual? Like, now I feel like I'm going to 5 million shells.
There are lots of shells.
Oh, 55.
Because there were
later
shells
next
on, I think, 2 of the fussy cut sheets. So there are lots of shells.
time.
So when we design, we often have white space in between, so you don't have to use everything. We just don't want to give you white paper. So we fill it up.
Fill it with bits. Okay, so I'll put my little summertime title down at the bottom. See, there's another piece here I use. One more fussy cut. It's this light blue pansy shell. And now you can actually just place these wherever you like them. Just going to create a bit of a collage here. I like to group little embellishments together so that you get a bit of variety of shape and color. This little guy is so cute. Lovely the crab. Oh, I love it. Just going to put him a little bit here in the corner. I'm actually just bringing it now. Okay, and I'm adding 1 or 2 little ones at the top here. You can see how I
Could you
stick
take
that down.
close-ups maybe?
I will. Close-ups now. I'm going to just stick them down and then I'll do all the close-ups. And another little starfish. Right. So I've stuck most of my embellishments on this page, with the exception of the other chipboard. I'll take some close-ups so you can see them.
Did you raise the starfish?
I've raised the sunshine and that little starfish. Those 2 have been raised, the rest are all flat. Okay, so top.
Crabby, crab, crab. Oh, it's
Show the
hard.
ladies from that angle.
Yeah, we're looking upside down. My eyes are like singing. Singing. Quickly. What's wrong? Seahorses. Delete it. Delete it. No. And I need another staff. Oh, sorry, chick. Thanks.
Okay, while you're sticking that down, I'm going to start pulling out the elements we need for this page, and then I'll photograph them again so you can see them. That's nice to have your little tray of everything in front of you. You can just pick them up as you need them. A lot of them is duplicates, so don't stress if you don't use the exact same ones. There are many.
I'm hysterical.
Oh, here comes some ladies. The crab is on the right page. Lynn, the crab is over here on the right-hand page.
Oh, did you cut the inside out of the crab? I only just saw that now.
On
Yeah,
which page did you cut the crab out?
the crab is on, I'll show you.
Cute. Oh, shucks, I need to cut that bit, so look.
The crab is on the back of the cover sheet. There he is in the middle. And I did cut on the inside, you don't have to, but I did cut the inside of these pincers. So he's on the back of the cover sheet. Okay, so I've just sent the picture of these elements that we're using on page 1. See?
It's alive.
Yeah, my starfish is alive. It's moving. You're all concentrating real hard. So I'm going to go so long, and I'm going to stick the little bits down on the left-hand page. If you're still on the right-hand page, that's fine. We do have time. I'm going to start assembling, and then you can. I'll take some photos so you can see where they all go. The big starfish on the left page, I am raising again with foam tape. Don't do that.
Everybody has a scrapping style, and most people tend to cluster in the middle with clear outer, whereas you,
Not me.
that's not your style at all. You start a Juliet layout. You fall almost from the outside, like coming in, whereas others are more from the center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely true. I love the little details. And I do often do my clusters on the outside. Very true. I love having little borders on the side of the page. Instead of just using plain backgrounds, I always like to bring them in a bit and just have some detail on the outside. Because I think, you know, your photos and everything, your business is in the middle. So often we forget the edges.
Yeah.
Never forget the photo. That's all.
Yeah, well, some of us. Oh, ladies, of course photos are important, but you know what? It's more important to just love what you're doing. And if it means doing layouts without photos and it makes you happy, that's 100%. End of the day, we all craft for different reasons. Do what makes you happy.
Yeah, but your
Sandy
photos are
says.
there.
So
There's space for photos.
absolutely.
Some people don't, they forget that we scrapbook to add photos. Some.
Or even if you just scratchbook to make pretty pages, if it makes you happy. That's what it
Absolutely.
matters.
If you never add photos, that's also okay. It's entirely up to
The
you.
purpose of scrapbooking, but it goes it's an art form. You give it to your kids to put their photos.
Each
on.
each to their
A
own.
lot of us teachers do
It's not
that. No layout, no photos. I've got about 10 million pages with no photos.
Told you 1,000 times.
Yeah.
So I'm putting some pictures on the WhatsApp group of just a bit close up of the embellishments, if that, the placement of them, if that helps you. That's what I've done on the left page.
I've got up to the crab. Crab.
Okay, ladies, I think what I want us to do now, because we don't have a lot of time left, I want us just to finish this section here, because the little bits of embellishments we can add right at the end. I mean, any of these details can be done later. So let's get this border strip done here. Now, for those of you who are planning on putting a big photo here, you're going to leave your title off. You're not going to stick your title down. Me, I've just made the example, so I've stuck it down. But it's very difficult to stick this just at the bottom and tuck a photo behind it because your chipboard might break. So if you don't want to stick your title down, if you're going to do smaller photos, then you can go ahead and stick it down. If not, then leave this section out. We'll do the border here, and you can first do your photo, slide it underneath, and do your title afterwards. Or if your photo is too big, you can move your title to somewhere else on the layout. Okay, so now we've got these two border strips that we used that we cut right in the beginning. We are going to trim them a little bit because they're a little bit long. So I've cut it right next to the text. We're just going to trim this one. We don't want them to be too long. And we're going to trim it right next to the word shoes. And I'm just going to rub my sanding block over the edge. And we're going to do the same for the, trim this one afterwards.
Oh, we need them both.
Yeah, we need both strips. Okay, so because this border is quite thin, I'm going to use my thin tape right on the bottom of this border strip, just because I want to just get it attached to that piece first. It's going to be easier if they're attached than to try and do them separately. And if you do this on your mat again, you can line it up with the grid line so that you can make sure you don't stick it skew. And I'm just going to attach like I'm just going to stick this a few millimeters over the blue border strip.
But now we haven't trimmed the blue border strip.
We're going to trim it
on the end.
afterwards, yeah. Okay. So don't push it down on your mat. You'll have to peel it off, but I mean, my tape is still exposed there. But at least I've got the two together because we want to put a bit of foam tape in the middle to keep it high so that it doesn't drop. Okay, and then you can trim the edge off of the blue strip. Just run your sanding block over it to neaten up the edges. And I'm just going to put foam tape a little bit in the middle. It doesn't need to be exact because these pieces are going to stick onto there, and the foam tape is just going to keep it from buckling in the middle. Okay, and once you've got it positioned where you want it, we are going to have to trim it over here for the other side of the page. Move it over slightly so we can actually have the word. So I'm going to trim it just next to the word in, like that. Okay.
Stick.
Then you can stick that down. This chipboard piece underneath, this little mesh, it's easy to just stick underneath because of the foam tape. Tuck spot. You're right, that's my new phrase.
Yeah.
Chuck it underneath. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit more double-sided tape because I only used a thin strip just to stick the two pieces together. So we want to do this right on the edge of the page. Like that. And add this piece on the other side. Everybody following? Everybody okay?
Yeah, we've got no questions. on
Okay,
that.
all good.
They don't have time to talk.
They're too busy. Okay.
Busy, busy, busy. Oh,
So you can see how it takes quick to stick the backgrounds down, and then that little details take forever. But that's where, for me, that's always my favorite part is just adding the little bits and the details.
The children thing, little bits. I love it. Love it, Mary.
Okay, we've got this little guy again. If you don't want it to overlap your photo, you can see, then just don't peel back your foam tape over here. If you put foam tape this way, I often just do this. And just snip them off. So I keep part of my foam tape attached, sorry, the backing, I keep unpeeled, if I can call it that, so that when I'm ready to put my photo down, I can still lift that side up. That little guy's just there. So I can still add my photo later without having to pull it up and tear it. Don't worry if your strip's too long. Again, you can just not stick it down here. It can go over your photograph. Mine's also long. It's okay. Someone said their strip is too long. It's not a problem. Just want to show you the foam tape detail here. You can see where we've raised it. And now this piece, again, it all depends on what photo you want to put here. I just love the little seahorse. So I've added an extra embellishment in here because I'm quite happy to just put small photos or just look at the pretty bubbles because bubbles are so pretty. So if you want to put this piece in, I've just nipped a piece across the bottom like that. Because there's foam tape, it's very easy to just hide underneath it. And I've added that. I have also raised that on foam tape. I'm going to cut a little bit more off. So I'll just put one piece along the bottom. And just tuck that in there. A little extra detail. And then the title. As I said, for those who don't want to do it, you don't have to, but I'm going to stick my title down just so that we can finish. And it has been a long time since we glued this, and since we inked and glittered these, so they're all nice and dry by now.
Juliet, it's almost 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
We're not in a rush to finish, but for those who do have to leave, could you
Okay,
just maybe walk
So
them
let's
through
just
the
go
last
over
steps?
through the last little bit. I want to just show you what I've done with the acetate as well. Ladies, I like to also, like Laura does, I like to edge my photo mats. We can do this before, but sometimes I just do them afterwards. In this case, I've used a white pen or a white Koki. It's really very, very simple, but it does add a nice little edge. So if you want to do that, you just on the wrong angle. Just draw little lines. Again, they can freehand because it's wavy, it's beachy. You don't need to see it. You don't need to see it perfectly. You don't need to use a ruler. And I've done that on the blue mats as well. We'll carry on with that just now, but I want to show you the acetate. I've used these little pieces. If you're, again, you might want to do this afterwards. If you have a look here, I've done the acetate waves over here. They look really pretty on the blue, and the white even shows up nicely. So even without painting that on the back, sometimes the white does work. If you're putting it on a darker background, you wouldn't be able to put white on any of these pieces, the white acetate, because you won't see the print unless you paint it. So I've cut it out along the wavy lines. And I've cut it down the center. Yeah, then I've just decided, just chosen a piece, measured more or less how long it is for my photo. Okay, and for me, the best way to stick down acetate, because either way you are going to see it, I love to use the Zig pen. It's a blue glue pen, but it dries absolutely clear. And you can literally just dot it or line it along these lines randomly. You don't need to glue the whole thing, but it's best to put it behind the text or the printed part, so then you don't see it as much. Just got little glue dots all along. Down, and if you leave it, it dries and it sticks, and you actually don't see much of the glue through it. Okay, so I've done that over here. I've done another one on that side, and I've also used some of the little acetate words and shells. Obviously, you would do that after you've placed your photographs. And then the chipboards, these little pieces of mesh, I've cut them into pieces. Piece like that. I think I cut a whole row off the top because they are too long. And you can just tuck those little pieces in random spots across your layout and stick those down. Also with this, if you just do little dots, then you don't have to stick the whole thing, and you can still do your photographs afterwards. And there's one more thing also. I do love little charms and little blings. I'm just quickly showing you the last details for those that need to go, and then we can carry on to those that are happy to stay and finish up the little details. So rhinestones, some more bling. Gotta love bling. So these rhinestones are self-adhesive, so you can just peel them off. And I have stuck a few of them in the middle of these, some of these little flowers. And see there, there's little rhinestones there. I've done them in the middle of these flowers. And then the charms, two little starfish. Now they've got little hooks on. If you don't like the hooks, you can just take a little wire cutter bead clipper and you can literally clip the hooks off like this. Sorry, they flick across the room. Sorry,
That
sorry.
was like seriously close.
Yes, I've just cut the little hook off. Sorry, Sandy. Nearly took Sandy's eye out with that one.
Safety glasses on.
This one too. There we go. So they snip off quite easily if you've got a little beading tool or a wire cutter. And the best glue for those is your Bostik clear glue. It sticks charms like a charm. So just a little, and it smells divine. Love it. So just put a little blob in the middle, and you can put your charms down, and they will stay in place. Oopsie. Match there.
Heather wants to know if you could just do some close-ups of the charms and
Sure.
embellishments, because her brain is finished now.
Heather, come now.
I feel the same.
Have I stressed you all out?
You've worn me out.
I warned you out. Sure, girls. Okay, let's do some close-ups.
Perhaps do your computer later.
Yes. Yeah, true.
You must also, you haven't spoken about that.
I did. You went to sleep.
Yeah.
Oh, so on this wreath, I've also placed some of the little words, one of the epoxies, another glittered pansy shell, some little cutouts. I've done, sorry, I'm doing this with my phone instead of as if it's a video. So I've put a little epoxy word there, one of the word strips, and then I've done another word strip here. So I've just built up this a little bit, added a few bling, and then I actually made a few of these layouts. I'm going to show you on the other one.
You could have given us a whole layout.
I know,
I suffered for nothing.
So this one doesn't have the chipboards added on it yet, but I don't know if you'll be able to see. I'll take close-ups. I have actually taken stickles and I've done details on some of the little elements on the pages. I've glittered here. I'm going to take some close-ups and show you because you can't see it on this camera, but it really looks pretty just to add a little bit of glitter glue to some of the elements on your layout. So let's do some photos here of the charms and these details here.
This definitely deserves some rhinestones too.
It's got rhinestones on, but you can add as many as you like. There are some little rhinestones here. I'll show you. Look there. There's a little bling bling in the middle of the flower. If you look on the look here, and if you look on the WhatsApp page.
I'll be nasty.
This one's not finished.
Doesn't matter. Sure. Oh, it's not finished.
And that's it, ladies. You can add as many or as few details as you like. If you want to go around with your gel pen and want to add a few little things, you want to add stickles. Let me take some pictures of the where I've added stickles that you can see. Okay, someone sent a picture of their exhausted animal. Is that how you're all feeling? That is too cute.
She wore us out, guys. Even the crows are exhausted.
Okay, so I think this picture I've sent now, if you zoom in, you'll be able to see how I've accented little bits on the seahorse with stickles with glitter. It looks really pretty. You're just not seeing it well on the video. And I've done some on some of the little plant bits here too. Okay, so don't be afraid to add little bits, as much or as little as you like. If you're a more plain and simple, then you'll leave some of the elements off. If you like details like I do, you can literally just keep adding until you have had enough, until you can't add anymore, or until you're too tired. Okay, so should I just give them a quick show and tell of the other layout?
Yeah, so if you want to just clear that.
Yeah.
Already.
We're obviously not going to do it now, but I want to just show you and do a little few detail shots so that you can see what we've done on this layout here. Okay, I think I'm actually going to take it out of the frame. It's really easier to look at. Thanks. Okay, so for this second layout, I tried to change it up a little bit and leave the blues out so that your two layouts don't look the same. There's a little bit of a color difference. These are the two border strips. That we've cut from the back of your cover sheet. There are these two very difficult fussy cut sheets again with all these little bits of seaweed and things like that that you've got to cut around. So I've used those two border strips in the middle here, and I have raised them. You can see the height. They've been raised on foam tape, so it gives you a nice little shadow. Other than that, your background sheets are plain. I've used the two wood grain sheets for the backgrounds. These two, the sort of pinky gray wood grain sheets, you don't have to join anything. Those are the two background sheets. And then I've layered strips. There's a strip of your busy pattern. There's a strip of the pebble. And then there's these strips with just some little border strips. So the background construction is very simple. And I've matted all of the quotes and the photo mats with a very light blue, probably this page. Some of your blue cardstocks that we've got left. You can see I've matted them. And I've used the frame without a mat, but I've put a sheet behind it. You can use any of the plain sheets. I just love the little seahorse, even though you'll probably be covered. And you can see these two I've also matted on a little bit of blue. So it just gives you a bit of depth. This is very simply a strip of pattern paper. It is this collage sheet. This sheet. So the pieces at the top here are from there, and then I've just cut sort of a 1 centimeter or 1.5 centimeter strip just to add a little bit more detail on the bottom here across the pebbles. Don't always have to fill all the gaps with things. Sometimes it's nice just to see a little bit of the background. I've done the same with the chipboards here with the shading as we did. And yeah, this piece in the middle, as I said, is just raised. It gives you a shadow. And the rest, I've also used some of the little sequins that are in your embellishment pack. The best to glue those is again using your glaze or your 3D gloss. And tuck spots again, little tags and things tucked underneath. Same little collage here. I'll take some close-ups and put them on the group so that when you put this page together, you can go back and look at them. And yeah.
Julie, can we have just a quick note from the sponsor?
Yes.
So
please do.
You would notice in the past we would get a really beautiful double layout and then a bonus layout that really was a bonus. But if you look at Juliet's two layouts, they are two feature layouts. You can't actually tell which one is better or more in depth than the other. And that was the reason we've increased the paper pack from 15 sheets to 18. And we've really focused on trying to get two doubles that are like this, intense, detail orientated. Yeah, just so you know, that was the reason behind it. We just think if you're going to be scrapping once a month and you get your bulk pack, two full layouts like this will keep you busy.
And also, there is so much paper left.
It could be 5 layers.
I actually want to show you.
At the bottom.
I want to just give you an idea of some of the paper that's left after I've done both of these layouts. Still create more layouts. Sorry, it's going to look a little bit messy now, but this is all left. There are still full sheets. There's still a full sheet like that. There's wood grain. You can still create another double layout. And so even then some.
Could we challenge you?
Okay, if you just give me a week or so.
Yeah,
I'll create another layout and put it on the group. But you can see how much is left. And there's the little bits still here. There's loads, there's lots of fussy cutting pieces left. You can easily create, and if you add a bit of cardstock, you could probably even do a 4th layout. That's how much paper there is still available after I've done these 2 layouts, and you can see there's lots on these layouts. Plenty border strips, so there really is so much value in this bulk pack that you can create. It's, I do a lot of mini albums as well, and for a mini album that I do, you need at least 16 sheets of paper, because 12 is just not enough. There's enough paper in this to do a whole reasonable sized mini album. So if that's your thing, you don't need to buy 2 packs of paper, which we often have to do. So it's fabulous. Lots and lots and lots of stuff.
Job well done, Dennis.
Well, Juliet, thank you very much. If anybody's got questions for Juliet, you don't have to run off. We're not in a hurry to leave. So unmute your mic, have a chat. Yeah.
Juliet, this is Magda speaking. You know these resin things that we got in our box. Do you have any tips on those?
The epoxies.
No,
The resins. So, the resins, I sometimes like to use them just as is, but they're also very easy to color. You can use the chalks. I've colored resins. All the all-purpose inks also work really well. Those little bottles of all-purpose inks. I don't have any here. They color resins really nicely. But honestly, I've used the chalks. They take a little bit longer to dry, but you can absolutely use your chalks or anything with a little dauber.
I remember alcohol ink.
Of course, you can use alcohol inks if that's your thing. Yeah,
You can use
alcohol
alcohol too if it's
You can- or just the plain alcohol. But there's lots and lots that you can do with them.
And what would you use to glue them to your page?
I would use
Normal,
Bostik or Tombow. You definitely need a wet glue because they're not always 100% flat at the bottom, depending on how they're cast. But for me, these Bostik glues are also acid-free, so they're not harmful. The Bostik Clear, this for me works perfectly for metals and resins and things like that.
Thanks a lot.
A bit of glitter. A bit of bling never hurt anyone. So yeah, we haven't used any of those resins on the projects. They're just an extra freebie, but let's challenge you all and see what you can do with them. Send us some pictures. Is there any other questions? I put so many layouts here. I don't know which one. There's so many copies of the same. Mine. There's now 3.
There's another one.
There's 3. Can I just show you how busy I've been? Where's the first page?
Yeah. There's also one that we took from there.
Sorry.
Okay, you wore me out.
Look here.
Actually wore me out.
Look how many of them I've done.
Wow. It's all seahorse out.
Oh, thank you very much, Juliet. Really
You're a
appreciate it.
welcome.
star, Linda. You wore me out.
Then I've done my job well. If you're all tired, that means you've worked hard.
Laura's taking no responsibility for her half of the day. It's all Juliet.
No, mine was plain sailing. Mine was like no sweat.
You had us fresh, that's why.
Well, if you do need to go, obviously you're welcome to go. The class tomorrow, you don't need to come in as early. We're starting at 9. I think we've ironed out all the IT issues and glitches. But oh yeah, sorry. Tomorrow we start at 8:30. A mini album is not a double layout, so we need a bit of extra time.
Bring your brains.
So and Michelle's got a really in-depth but beautiful Christmas layout that she'll be sharing. So we look forward to tomorrow spending with Michelle and Sandy. And yeah, come in half an hour early, 8:30. Although, yeah, please come a little bit early, just in case there are any issues. We can sort them out before the class starts. And we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm going to switch off the Facebook Live now. So goodbye to everybody on Facebook.
Bye. Thanks for everything.
Oh, thanks for joining us.
You really wore me out.